Chapter 2446. Lin Feng, little Tian Tian, Bibi, and the dragon rabbit continued flying towards the direction of the 9 states' immortal kingdom. Along the way, they saw quite a number of powerful beasts roaming about in the forests. The dragon rabbit unleashed its powerful abilities. It found a few ancient caves that were sealed with seals. Lin Feng broke through the seals and obtained many cultivation resources, natural treasures, and so on. Along the way, Lin Feng and the others stopped from time to time. They did not rush with all their might. Instead, they searched for opportunities as they traveled. This afternoon, Lin Feng rested beside a small stream while little Tian Tian, Bibi, and the dragon rabbit played in the forest. Boom! A terrifying shockwave came from afar, sweeping through the world and shaking the void. Sensing the terrifying shockwave, Lin Feng stood up hurriedly. He saw the 3 little fellas flying up into the air. The dragon rabbit must have found another ancient cultivator's cave. Lin Feng flew over and found a gigantic cave. Initially, there was a gigantic boulder that was 1,000 meters tall, blocking the entrance of the cave. It looked very ordinary, without anything special about it. However, the dragon rabbit discovered the secret of this place. That was because it could sense treasures. Therefore, the dragon rabbit discovered that there seemed to be treasures within the boulder. Little Tian Tian was very interested in treasure hunting. She used her tender little fists to smash the boulder into smithereens. Then, a pitch-black cave appeared. Looking at the cave, Lin Feng could not help but frown. There was a sinister aura emanating from the depths of the cave. He did not know what was inside. Squeak, 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 squeak. The dragon rabbit bared its fangs and waved its claws. "You're saying that there are treasures inside?" Lin Feng looked at the dragon rabbit and asked. The dragon rabbit nodded its head hurriedly. There was no way the dragon rabbit could be wrong. Since the dragon rabbit said that there were treasures inside, Lin Feng decided to enter and explore to see just what kind of treasures there were. Lin Feng took the lead. Little Tian Tian, Bibi, and the dragon rabbit followed behind him. Under Lin Feng's lead, the group began to walk into the depths of the cave. This cave was very deep. Inside the cave, there was a cold and terrifying aura. This aura was simply suffocating. "Uncle Lin, there won't be any evil spirits inside, right?" Tian thought of the powerful evil spirit they met earlier and could not help but ask. Although her cultivation was strong, she was still too young. After encountering the evil ghost, she was so scared that her little face turned as white as paper. Said Lin Feng, "Don't worry. Even if there are evil spirits, we will destroy them. With Uncle Lin here, I'm not afraid." Tian said. "Yeah, squeak." Bei also cried out. Then he raised his head, looking as if he wasn't afraid at all. It was quite funny. Creak, creak, squeak to Tian. They Lin Feng's Dao continued. It took them a long time to reach the deepest part of the cave. At the deepest part of the passageway, the belly of a huge mountain appeared. After seeing the belly of the mountain, Xiao Tian, Bei, and Dragon Rabbit quickly rushed in. The 3 little fellows seemed to have lost their fear in an instant. It was as if they had discovered a new continent. They wanted to explore this new mountain before Lin Feng. There were 4 huge drawings on the walls of the mountain. The 4 drawings were 4 huge yin-yang Dao diagrams. The 4 yin-yang Dao diagrams resonated with each other. The 4 yin-yang Dao diagrams were not simple. The arrangement was very complicated. Lin Feng took a closer look and felt a wave of dizziness in his head. The cultivator who arranged the 4 yin-yang Dao diagrams was extremely powerful. His attainments in array formations had also reached an unfathomable level. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Bibi pointed at a pitch-black rock. Lin Feng's attention was drawn over. He also looked at the pitch-black rock. The rock emitted a cold aura. Lin Feng touched it and found that it was extremely cold. Are these dragon patterns? Lin Feng was astonished when he saw the godly marks on the stone. The divine patterns emitted a mysterious power. Upon closer inspection, the divine patterns were like giant dragons bearing their fangs and brandishing their claws. Is this black dragon stone? It's an extremely rare forging material. I didn't expect to find a black dragon tattoo stone here. It's not a small harvest. If you can integrate this black dragon tattoo stone into your life source magic weapon, the power of your life source magic weapon, Primal Chaos Ancient Lamp, should be greatly enhanced. The demon lord said, "Oh, this black dragon stone is so extraordinary." Lin Feng was shocked. Then, his face lit up with joy. He put away the black dragon tattoo stone and looked around the mountain again. He found that there was nothing else he could take away from the mountain besides the black dragon tattoo stone. Lin Feng, Tian, Bibi, and the dragon rabbit left the mountain. Not long after Lin Feng and the others left, the 4 yin-yang Dao diagrams suddenly began to ripple violently. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The 4 yin-yang Dao diagrams each shot out a beam of light. Then the 4 beams of light converged together. A massive Dao diagram of the void appeared. The void Dao diagram seemed to be connected to a mysterious space. My treasure! That's my treasure! Whoever dares to take my treasure will die. As the voice faded away, waves of violent ripples suddenly surged out of the void Dao diagram. Uffed. Next, something seemed to burrow out of the void Dao diagram. It was shrouded in a ball of darkness, but it was unknown what it was. The pitch-black thing quickly flew outside, disappearing in the blink of an eye. After obtaining the black dragon stone, Lin Feng found a place to go into seclusion and refine his Primal Chaos Ancient Lamp. With the black dragon stone, the Primal Chaos Ancient Lamp's power would be greatly enhanced. For the time being, Lin Feng sent Tian, Bibi, and the dragon rabbit into his mountain and river ring. The 3 of them couldn't stay in the cave, so he sent them to play. The mountain and river ring was big enough for them to do whatever they wanted. Lin Feng took out the primordial demon cauldron and tossed the black dragon stone inside. Next, Lin Feng began to dissolve the black dragon stone. Chapter 2447. Lin Feng still did not have the time to deal with the ghostly emperor. The ghostly emperor's cultivation was extremely terrifying. Therefore, it would not be easy to subdue him. Of course, Lin Feng was now an underworld envoy, and Lin Feng had broken through to the heavenly god realm. Therefore, it should be much easier to subdue the ghostly emperor. After hearing the ghostly emperor's words, Lin Feng raised his brows and said, "What? Do you know the origin of this black dragon engraving stone?" The ghostly emperor said, "Of course I know. This black dragon engraving stone is different from ordinary black dragon engraving stones. It cannot be refined casually. Why don't we work together? You can return my freedom, and I can tell you everything you want to know." Lin Feng said with an indifferent expression, "Are you bargaining with me?" "Ghostly Emperor, you should know that you are now a prisoner. With my ability, killing you is not difficult. I did not kill you because I want you to acknowledge me as your master. This is because I cherish talents. If you do not know how to appreciate my kindness, I will have no choice but to kill you." The ghostly emperor said in a straightforward manner, "Kill me? Do you think I will be afraid? At most, I will die. What's the big deal? I am not someone who is afraid of death. I would rather die than be ordered around by others. The ghostly emperor was very stubborn. Lin Feng did not have the time to waste with the ghostly emperor. Therefore, he could not be bothered to say anything more to the ghostly emperor. Lin Feng took out the heavenly fire. He began to refine the black dragon engraving stone. The ghostly emperor continued, "If you don't listen to my advice, you will suffer greatly." Lin Feng still did not respond to the ghostly emperor. The ghostly emperor continued, "Cooperation is mutually beneficial. Can't you understand such a simple principle?" Lin Feng still did not respond to the ghostly emperor. At this moment, the ghost emperor was already flustered and exasperated. He roared, "Brat, you're done for. Let me tell you, you're done for. How dare you refine this black dragon pattern stone? Even 10 of you won't be enough to kill you," said Lin Feng, smiling coldly. "If you have something to say, say it. If you don't want to say it, then shut the hell up. If you don't shut the hell up when I finish refining the black dragon stones, I'll torture you until you wish you were dead." "You win," the ghost emperor said viciously. Lin Feng continued to refine the black dragon vein stone. The black dragon vein stone began to melt. As the black dragon tattoo stone melted, Lin Feng discovered that something was wrong. The black dragon vein stone seemed to contain some blood-colored energy. Upon closer inspection, the blood-colored energy was actually not energy, but streaks of blood. "What is this?" Lin Feng was surprised, and then he frowned. How could there be traces of blood in the black dragon stone? Then, something even stranger happened. Dense blood vessels appeared. The blood vessels gathered together and turned into a small blob of purple blood. Bam! The blob of purple blood emitted a powerful energy wave. The energy wave swept across Lin Feng's body. Then Lin Feng was sent flying. Wah! Lin Feng suffered a heavy blow, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The blob of purple blood was too terrifying. It actually injured Lin Feng. The blob of purple blood flew toward Lin Feng, and then it emitted a strange energy that enveloped Lin Feng. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt his body become hotter and hotter. He felt as if his body was being refined into pure energy. The blob of purple blood was actually trying to refine him. Lin Feng was extremely shocked. His expression immediately turned ugly. Lin Feng controlled the heavenly fire, wanting to burn the blob of purple blood into ashes. However, he was shocked to find that the heavenly fire could not burn the blob of purple blood. The blob of purple blood was extremely terrifying. The heavenly fire could not hurt it at all. The ghost emperor gloated. "I warned you, but you didn't listen. Now that you are unlucky, just wait for your death." Lin Feng sneered. "If I really die, I will definitely kill you before I die." "Humph." The ghost emperor snorted. Lin Feng hastily released his immortal godly blood and ruler's imperial blood to resist the purple blood. "Ghost Emperor, I'm going to destroy you now. If you don't want to die, tell me where that purple blood came from. If you don't tell me, I'll kill you," said Lin Feng, releasing his immortal godly blood and ruler's imperial blood. The Ghost Emperor said, "So what if I tell you? Do you think you can fight against this blob of purple blood? Stop talking nonsense and tell me." Lin Feng said coldly. The heavenly fire surged into the ghost raising jar, wanting to kill the Ghost Emperor at any time. The Ghost Emperor's face turned gloomy. Although he was not afraid of death, he was not willing to die if he could live. Since the blob of purple blood had already been released, there was no harm in telling him the origin of the blob of purple blood. This kid would definitely not be able to fight against the blob of purple blood. At that thought, the Ghost Emperor's face turned slightly better. The Ghost Emperor said, This blob of purple blood is the blood of an ancestral fiend. What? The blood of an ancestral fiend? Lin Feng was shocked. An existence that could be called an ancestral fiend was an existence on the same level as the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. It was definitely extremely ancient. Furthermore, every ancestral fiend had an incredible origin. The strength of every ancestral fiend was also unimaginably terrifying. The blob of purple blood was actually the blood of an ancestral fiend. That was a little terrifying. Why would the blood of an ancestral fiend appear on this black dragon patterned stone? Lin Feng continued asking. The ghost emperor said, "Legend has it that when an ancestral fiend fell, his blood dyed the entire ocean red. This black dragon patterned stone absorbed the ancestral fiend's blood essence. Therefore, this blob of purple blood is not only the blood of an ancestral fiend, but also the most precious blood essence of an ancestral fiend. Because this black dragon patterned stone has been stained with the ancestral fiend's blood essence, its effects are incomparable to ordinary black dragon patterned stones. If you use this black dragon patterned stone to forge a magic treasure, you can even forge the embryonic form of an immortal artifact. In the future, as you continue to improve, you can easily transform into an immortal artifact. Of course, the prerequisite is that you can subdue the ancestral fiend's blood essence. You have to completely fuse the ancestral fiend's blood essence with the magic treasure. But clearly, you can't fight against the ancestral fiend's blood essence. If you had cooperated with me earlier, you wouldn't have released the ancestral fiend's blood essence. Although you can't refine the black dragon patterned stone, at the very least, you wouldn't have ended up like this. But now it's too late. The ancestral fiend's blood essence has been released, and only death awaits you. Clearly, in the Ghost Emperor's opinion, Lin Feng could not fight against the ancestral fiend's blood essence. Against the attack of the ancestral fiend's blood essence, Lin Feng was doomed. Chapter 2448. The blood-colored vortex formed by the ancestral fiend's blood essence was terrifying to the extreme. It wanted to devour Lin Feng. Lin Feng did not dare to be careless in the face of the blood-colored vortex's devouring. He circulated the archaic dragonesque elephant art to resist the blood-colored vortex's devouring, but to no avail. Next, Lin Feng circulated his epic hegemony, but he still could not resist the blood-colored vortex's devouring. The blood-colored vortex was just too powerful. It was so powerful that it shocked Lin Feng to the point where he could not resist. Of course, from a certain perspective, it was not because the blood-colored vortex was too powerful. It was because the ancestral fiend's blood essence was too powerful. The blood essence left behind by the ancestral fiend that could fight against the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors was too terrifying. Could it be that I have to use my supreme hegemony? Lin Feng could not help but ponder. Just as this thought appeared, something strange happened. The ancestral fiend's blood essence seemed to know Lin Feng's thoughts. Therefore, just as Lin Feng had the thought of using his supreme hegemony, blood-colored chains formed from the blood-colored vortex. The blood-colored chains directly wrapped around Lin Feng's body. When Lin Feng wanted to struggle, he was shocked to find that his dermic powers had been sealed. The blood-colored chains were extremely strange. They could seal a cultivator's dermic powers. Now, that Lin Feng could not move or circulate his dermic powers, he naturally could not circulate his hegemony. That was because using hegemony required a huge amount of dermic powers to support it. Dermic powers were the foundation of a cultivator's various powerful ultimate moves. Therefore, when a cultivator lost his dermic powers, it was as if he had become a cripple. This is troublesome. Lin Feng's face turned extremely ugly. He felt as if his body was about to be dissolved. The blood flowing in his body was also about to be dissolved. He was about to be dissolved into the purest energy, before being devoured by the blood-colored vortex. It was a terrible feeling. It was just a ball of Ancestral Fiend's blood essence, but it was so powerful that Lin Feng was deeply shocked. He really did not know what level the Ancestral Fiend was at back then. Could it be an immortal? He was able to contend against the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. There was a high chance that it was an immortal. Lin Feng felt his consciousness gradually blurring. He had encountered a huge problem. The Ancestral Fiend blood essence was unable to withstand it. Lin Feng's fate seemed to have been decided. It was a blur. Lin Feng felt that he was about to die. At this time, his immortal bloodline activated on its own, and a powerful immortal power was awakened. It was constantly repairing his body. The power of the Ancestral Fiend blood essence wanted to refine Lin Feng into the purest form of energy. The power of the immortal god blood was constantly repairing Lin Feng's body to resist the Ancestral Fiend's blood essence. The 2 forces were in a stalemate. Suddenly, the Ancestral Fiend blood essence emitted streams of fiendish power that surged towards Lin Feng. That demonic power was very terrifying. It wanted to destroy Lin Feng's body. At the same time, an ancient power in Lin Feng's bloodline began to awaken. An illusory world appeared, and a man walked out from the depths of that illusory world. The man was dressed in white. He looked very handsome, and his eyes were as bright as the stars. This was the power slumbering in the bloodline, the power that originated from the ancestor. Junior, how impudent! Suddenly, a deep voice sounded from the Ancestral Fiend blood essence. It was the Ancestral Fiend's inextinguishable will that had fused into the Ancestral Fiend blood essence. The reason why the Ancestral Fiend blood essence was so terrifying and had such strong offensive power was because of the will. It was all too normal for Lin Feng to find it difficult to resist the will of an Ancestral Fiend. With his current cultivation level, it would be strange if he could resist the will of an Ancestral Fiend. The Ancestral Fiends will berated the figure in Lin Feng's bloodline by calling him a junior. Clearly, it held great disdain for the ancestor, Lin Feng. Lin Feng's figure didn't say a word. He walked over step by step, and the world seemed to fall silent. The entire world fell silent. The cave where Lin Feng had been in seclusion instantly transformed into a vast and boundless world. Lin Feng and the Ancestral Fiend blood essence had arrived in another world. They had arrived at the world that the cave had become. It was vast and boundless, with no end in sight. It was a world created by the memories that Lin Feng's ancestor had left in Lin Feng's bloodline. This was the power slumbering in the bloodline. It was very difficult to use this power. Normally, one would have to undergo a deep bloodline awakening. Only after the awakening was successful could a cultivator use this terrifying power. There was another situation where the power slumbering in the bloodline could be awakened. For example, when one encountered danger, there was an extremely small chance that the power would awaken. It was the same situation that Lin Feng was currently in. This awakening method was short-lived and couldn't be sustained. Furthermore, it was passive. When the power of the ancestor awakened, the cultivator couldn't use it, but it could actively protect the bloodline possessor. All Dharma shall fall silent. The heavenly Tao shall collapse, the sun and moon shall sink, and the universe shall change. As long as my body is not destroyed, my heart will not die. Even if the epic repeats itself, I can still reverse the tribulation and return. Lin Feng's mysterious ancestor said an extremely profound sentence. Following that, he took a step forward and walked towards the Ancestral Fiend blood essence. The Ancestral Fiend blood essence distorted and transformed into a bloody figure. What tricks are you playing? A mere junior dares to be so impudent in front of me? You're courting death. The bloody figure formed from the ancestral fiend blood essence charged towards Lin Feng's ancestor. There's a hierarchy in the Tao, but cultivation depends on one's own fortune. Lin Feng's ancestor muttered to himself. Boom. Soon, the two existences engaged in a fierce battle. The two sides had only exchanged 3 blows. Lin Feng's ancestor condensed a mysterious rune and sent it into the bloody figure formed from the ancestral fiend blood essence. The bloody figure formed from the ancestral fiend blood essence began to crumble. No, no, no. How is this possible? You're actually... The bloody figure formed from the ancestral fiend blood essence shrieked in horror. He seemed to have discovered a great secret from the mysterious rune. That secret, his face drained of color, and he found it hard to believe. The bloody figure wanted to reveal the secret, but Lin Feng's ancestor didn't give him the chance. Your physical body is dead, and your soul is destroyed. Since your body is dead, and your Tao is gone, why leave behind this obsession? Lin Feng's ancestor reached out and gently tapped the bloody figure formed from the ancestral fiend blood essence. Bang! Next, the bloody figure formed from the ancestral fiend blood essence crumbled. Although my bloodline has been abandoned, there are still descendants. My bloodline will eventually surpass the main bloodline. Chapter 2449. Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Lin Feng could vaguely feel someone calling out to him. He opened his eyes and found that there was only darkness in front of him. This was a world of darkness. Lin Feng's consciousness was still immersed in the darkness. After an unknown amount of time, a ray of light appeared in this world of darkness. Lin Feng followed the ray of light and quickly chased after it. Finally, he escaped the darkness and came to the outside world of light. Whoosh! Light flashed before his eyes. Lin Feng came back to his senses. He found that he was still in the cave. The primordial magic cauldron was not far from him, and the heavenly fire was still burning. The black dragon rune stone had been melted into a ball of liquid. The ancestral devil blood floated in front of him, but it no longer had the ancestral devil's obsession. It was very quiet. What's going on? Lin Feng was puzzled. His consciousness had fallen into a state of deep sleep, so he didn't know what had happened. Demon Lord, what happened? I clearly remember that I was about to die. Why am I not dead? On the other hand, the ancestral demon blood is calm. Ask Lin Feng. The demon lord's voice was faint. There are some things that I can't tell you. I'll wait for you to slowly discover them. Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. What was it that he couldn't tell him? It was so mysterious. It really made him curious. Of course, Lin Feng knew the demon lord well. It wasn't easy to get information from him. Therefore, he couldn't be bothered to continue asking the demon lord. Lin Feng planned to refine his own primordial chaos ancient lamp. He placed the primordial chaos ancient lamp in the primordial magic cauldron, then poured the black dragon rune stone into the lamp. At the same time, Lin Feng also fused the ancestral devil blood essence into the primordial chaos ancient lamp. The ancestral devil blood essence had a decisive effect on improving the quality of the primordial chaos ancient lamp. Heavenly fire refines, immortal treasure nurtures, great Tao weapon, all creatures bow down. Lin Feng began to recite the refining technique. Although he was not considered a top-notch craftsman, having cultivated to Lin Feng's level, he was actually quite proficient in crafting. Moreover, there were several blacksmithing experts in the Dragon Gate. Back then, Lin Feng had consulted several blacksmithing grandmasters in the Dragon Gate about blacksmithing. It might be difficult for Lin Feng to refine magical equipment on a large scale, but it was not difficult for Lin Feng to carefully carve his own life-bound magical equipment. Time quickly passed as the black dragon patterned rock's metallic liquid and the ancestral fiend blood essence were gradually absorbed by the Chaos Ancient Lamp. Right now, Lin Feng's primal Chaos Ancient Lamp was a quasi-emperor level magic treasure. It was extremely powerful. Of course, once a magic treasure was upgraded to the level of a quasi-emperor weapon, the next step would be to evolve into an emperor weapon. It was extremely difficult for a quasi-emperor weapon to evolve into an emperor weapon. This level of difficulty was no less than the difficulty of a quasi-emperor weapon breaking through to an emperor weapon. Therefore, Lin Feng's primal chaos ancient lamp needed a very long time to break through to the monarch armament level. Originally, Lin Feng's quasi-emperor weapon was an early-stage quasi-emperor weapon, now that he had obtained the black dragon-patterned rock, especially after the ancestral fiend blood essence was upgraded. Its quality had reached the mid-stage quasi-emperor weapon. Although it was only upgraded by 1 grade, it was already an extremely huge improvement. One had to know, for a quasi-emperor weapon, every upgrade was extremely difficult. After keeping the primal chaos ancient lamp, Lin Feng planned to deal with the ghostly emperor properly. He took out the ghostly raising jar and said to the ghostly emperor, "Ghostly emperor, it's time for us to settle the score." The ghostly emperor immediately shouted, "What? Could it be that you want me to submit to you? You don't have that ability." Ha ha ha. Damn, I'm actually being looked down on by a ghost. Lin Feng could not help but roll his eyes. He had used the power of the Netherworld Envoy rune to suppress the ghostly emperor. However, the ghostly emperor was extremely terrifying now. He was actually able to dissolve the power of Lin Feng's Netherworld Envoy rune. The Netherworld Envoy rune is indeed very powerful. However, I don't belong to the Netherworld realm. Its effect on me is negligible. The ghostly emperor curled his lips and said, "The Netherworld Envoy rune could suppress Een spirits and ghosts. However, it could not suppress all Een spirits and ghosts. For Een spirits and ghosts that did not belong to the Netherworld realm, the effect of the Netherworld Envoy rune would be greatly weakened." Previously, Lin Feng did not know about this. Now that he had used the Netherworld Envoy rune to suppress the ghostly emperor, he had failed. It was only after hearing the ghost emperor's proud words that he realized this point. "Humph, do you think that you can continue to get away with this? Sooner or later, I will find a way to make you my slave. You will be under my control," Lin Feng said with a cold smile. The ghostly emperor laughed weirdly. "You are daydreaming. Every day, my power is increasing rapidly. You will never be able to control me. Let's ride a donkey and read a songbook. We'll see." Lin Feng could not help but laugh coldly. The night was bright. The moon was as bright as a plate, dotted with stars. Lin Feng sat on a large, smooth rock. Little Tian Tian's eyelids were drooping as she nestled in Lin Feng's embrace, looking drowsy. Bibi and the dragon rabbit were extremely energetic. They were chasing each other not far away. "Uncle Lin, I suddenly remember where my home is," little Tian Tian suddenly said. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat, and he could not help but ask, "Where is it?" "The Celestial Arch, the Celestial Arch, the Celestial Arch." Little Tian Tian remembers that many people are worshipping the Celestial Arch. Little Tian Tian said, "The Celestial Arch? Could it be the Undying Realm?" Lin Feng's face was filled with confusion. The Undying Realm had a heavenly court. It was said that the master of the heavenly court was called the Celestial Arch. Apart from the Undying Realm, Lin Feng could not think of any other place where people would worship the Celestial Arch. What kind of place is the Undying Realm? Little Tian Tian asked curiously. It is a huge world. It is ranked first among the 3,000 great worlds. Lin Feng said. Little Tian Tian bit her finger and said, Uncle Lin, Little Tian Tian had a dream a few days ago. Little girl, did you have a dream? Was it a very interesting dream? Lin Feng asked with a smile as he rubbed Little Tian Tian's head. Little Tian Tian said, It was a dream I had after eating that fruit. A dream you had after eating the deathly still fruit? Lin Feng asked in astonishment. His expression became somewhat solemn. After eating the deathly still fruit, Little Tian Tian fell into a deep slumber and absorbed the fruit's energy while she was asleep. As her cultivation increased, her bloodline memories began to awaken. If the dream Little Tian Tian spoke of was a dream, then it should not be a dream. Instead, it was some of the memories in her bloodline that had awakened. Perhaps it was some of the bloodline memories her parents had left her. Little Tian Tian nodded and said, It was that deathly still fruit. Little Tian Tian dreamed of Mother. And Mother told Little Tian Tian that the world we live in was created by an ancient clan. Lin Feng could not help but be shocked. The world Little Tian Tian spoke of was very likely the Undying Realm. Was the Undying Realm not formed by the laws of heaven and earth? How could it have been created by a clan? If what Little Tian Tian said was true, then it was too shocking. What clan could have created the Undying Realm? Chapter 2450. Lin Feng couldn't be sure if the Undying World was related to the Undying Clan. However, if what Little Tian Tian said was true, and the clan that created the Undying World was the Undying Clan, if that was the case, then the Undying Clan's origin was too terrifying. Even now, Lin Feng realized that he didn't know much about the Undying Clan. He only knew that the clan was very ancient, and that the Undying bloodline was one of the top 10 ancient bloodlines. However, this didn't mean that the Undying Clan's history originated from the immemorial era. If the Undying Clan had remained hidden from the world before the immemorial era, then their bloodline would naturally have been unknown. Demon Lord, tell me a little about the Undying World. You were once one of the big shots of the Undying World, so you should know more about it, right? Lin Feng transmitted to the Demon Lord. The Demon Lord asked indifferently, What do you want to know? About the Undying World and the Undying Clan, Lin Feng said. The Demon Lord pursed his lips and said, You really want to know a lot of things. Lin Feng smiled embarrassedly. The Demon Lord said, There are indeed some rumors about the Undying World. It's said that when the myriad worlds were evolving, the Undying World was related to a mysterious clan. Of course, I'm not sure if that clan is the Undying Clan. As for the Undying Clan, it's a little more mysterious. Its origin is very mysterious, and they're very powerful. No one knows where their ancestral land is. Isn't the Undying Clan's headquarters in the 9 prefectures? Lin Feng asked. The Demon Lord sneered and said disdainfully, It's not that I'm looking down on the Undying Clan of the 9 prefectures, but what kind of Undying Clan is this? They're probably a branch of the Undying Clan from the Great War. A true Undying Clan wouldn't have fallen to the mortal world. Back then, when the Celestial Emperor talked about the Undying Clan, he was deeply afraid. Do you think the Undying Clan of the 9 prefectures has the strength to make the Celestial Emperor afraid? Lin Feng was speechless. The Sky Emperor was in charge of the Undying Realm. The Undying Realm, ranked first among the 3,000 major worlds, was also the most powerful major world. It was easy to imagine how powerful the Sky Emperor, who controlled the Undying World, was. Although the 9 regions' great world was also a famous great world, it was far inferior to the Undying Realm. Moreover, the Undying clan was only one of the clans in the Nine Continents world. It was not considered a supreme overlord. Therefore, this kind of undying family simply did not have the qualifications to make the Heavenly Emperor feel apprehensive. Thus, the Undying clan definitely had a great origin. In that case, everything about the Undying clan is a mystery? Asked Lin Feng telepathically. To the common people, the Undying clan is indeed too mysterious. However, back then, there were actually people who more or less guessed where the Undying family's ancestral land was. None of the people who went to explore that place came back alive. Later on, there were people who asked the Heavenly Emperor about some matters regarding the Undying family, but I don't know what the Heavenly Emperor specifically said. The Demon Lord said, "Seems like you've heard of the location of the Undying clan's ancestral land." Lin Feng asked. The Demon Lord said, "My memory is incomplete. I can't remember." Then, the Demon Lord cut off his connection with Lin Feng. Lin Feng was depressed. He did not believe that the Demon Lord really did not remember. It was obvious that the Demon Lord did not want to tell him. His curiosity was piqued halfway through the conversation, and then he did not say anything else. This was really too much of a scam. Lin Feng now had the urge to kick the Demon Lord to death. I'll endure," Lin Feng shouted fiercely in his heart. Xiao Tiantian had already fallen asleep in Lin Feng's arms. The little girl had a sweet smile on her face. She seemed to be dreaming of something happy in her sleep. Bibi and Dragon Rabbit were also tired from playing. They ran over to Lin Feng's side, and then leaned against Lin Feng's side, and fell asleep. Only Lin Feng was not sleepy, because only now did he realize that the Undying clan was not as simple as he had imagined. What was the shocking origin of this ancient clan? This made Lin Feng extremely curious. However, the secret of the Undying clan was destined to be difficult for Lin Feng to find out at this stage. The next day, Lin Feng, Xiao Tiantian, Bibi, and Dragon Rabbit continued their journey. Roar! Halfway there, they heard a high-pitched dragon roar. In the distance, a green flood dragon was pulling a divine carriage and rushing into the distance. A handsome middle-aged cultivator was sitting in the divine carriage. Lin Feng was surprised to see a human. It seemed that he was a cultivator from the 9 states' immortal kingdom. Not long after, Lin Feng saw a few more cultivators. They were all very young, but those cultivators were not on the prodigy roll this time. They should also be from the 9 states' immortal realm. These cultivators saw Lin Feng and the others from afar, but they did not pay too much attention to Lin Feng and the others. Instead, they quickly left. One after another, Lin Feng saw many cultivators appear in this mountain forest. They all looked hurried. Something seems to have happened. Lin Feng could not help but mutter. He decided to follow these cultivators to see what was going on. Lin Feng, Xiao Tiantian, Bibi, and Dragon Rabbit followed behind these cultivators. Finally, they saw a huge lake. Many cultivators gathered outside the huge lake. "Uncle Lin, there are so many people," Xiao Tiantian said. Lin Feng nodded. There were probably no less than a few thousand people gathered around the lake. He did not know why these people were gathered here. Could it be that there was a treasure in the lake? Seems like after so many years of development, the scale of the 9 provinces' immortal empire has already grown to such a large scale. This place is truly worthy of being called a holy land for cultivation. The cultivation bases of those young cultivators are all so powerful. If they participate in the Heaven's Chosen rankings, they would definitely be able to achieve outstanding results. Lin Feng could not help but mutter to himself. At this time, an old man not far away said, "This is the holy land of the 9 states' great world. It is the best place for cultivation. Cultivating here will increase one's cultivation very quickly. However, as the saying goes, where there are gains, there are losses. Although cultivating here is fast, there are also losses. The old man must have heard Lin Feng's mutter. That was why he said that. Lin Feng asked, "Senior, what do you mean by losses?" The people who stayed in the 9 continents immortal realm later found out that they could no longer leave the place. The old man said. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly, and he said, "There's such a thing?" "Yes. Therefore, this place is like a siege. Those in the 9 states immortal realm want to leave, while those outside want to enter. You must be a cultivator who stood out in the prodigy role, right? Remember, in the 9 states immortal realm, you must guard your heart. If you can't, you are destined to be unwilling to leave this place. Then you will be trapped here forever." Chapter 2451. Why can't we leave? Lin Feng asked with a frown. He felt that the paradise of the 9 continents was a little strange. Every world has its own laws of order that it needs to follow. The old man said. Lin Feng pondered for a moment and nodded. "Why are these people here?" Lin Feng asked. "This lake is called the Wonderful Sound Lake. There is an immortal island in the Wonderful Sound Lake called the Wonderful Sound Island. There are many wonderful sound flowers there. These wonderful sound flowers are extraordinary and have many uses. For example, they can be used to concoct all kinds of pills. These pills can increase a cultivator's soul energy. Of course, you can also bring the wonderful sound grass to the 9 continents immortal country to exchange for pills that can increase soul energy. Therefore, these wonderful sound flowers are very popular." The old man said. After hearing the old man's words, Lin Feng was shocked. Heavenly treasures that could increase soul energy were extremely rare. Once such a treasure appeared, it would definitely cause a bloodbath. Who would have thought that a treasure like the wonderful sound flower would appear here? Lin Feng was also very interested in the wonderful sound flower. He had an extremely terrifying concealment technique, and that was Luya's stargazing chart. It was a technique that used soul energy to attack the soul. In the past, Lin Feng had used Luya's stargazing chart to kill Huangfu Qingtian. If it wasn't for Luya's stargazing chart, Lin Feng might have died in that battle. Therefore, Lin Feng was very interested in treasures that could increase soul energy. Bestial roars could be heard from afar. Black flame beasts let out deep roars and rushed over. There was a cultivator sitting on top of each black flame beast. Those cultivators had spears on their backs. They were obviously from the same faction. Among those black flame beasts, there was a huge one. A young man was sitting cross-legged on top of that huge black flame beast. That group of young men should be the leader of this group. Mo Tianyan, a direct descendant of the Mo clan. He's one of the most important disciples of the Mo clan. His talent is extraordinary. Yeah, I heard that he broke through to the God realm when he was 25, the Divine Flame realm when he was 28, the True God realm when he was 32, the Heavenly God realm when he was 37, the Giant God realm when he was 60 years old, and the Quasi-Emperor realm when he was 300 years old. He's truly a genius. How many people in the outside world can compare to him with such talent? The 9 provinces' immortal territory is destined to be different from the outside world. I've heard that those major powers have been thinking of ways to leave the 9 provinces' immortal territory. I wonder if those major powers have found a way to leave. To put it bluntly, even if we find it, we probably won't be able to benefit from it. Many cultivators began to discuss among themselves. There were many powers in the 9 continents' immortal realm, and the Mo clan was one of them. Even the royal clan of the 9 provinces was extremely fearful of the Mo clan. After Mo Tianyan's arrival, a few other young masters arrived one after another. Their identities were all extraordinary as they came from the big families of the 9 states' wonderland. These big families were currently occupying a region. Thus, the 9 provinces' immortal territory felt like it was a feudal state. The 9 provinces' immortal country was the only country in the 9 provinces' immortal territory, and it was also the largest power. However, other than the 9 provinces' immortal country, some other major powers had also established ancient cities. It was just that they hadn't established a country yet. Of course, in terms of strength, there was a certain gap between those major powers and the 9 provinces' immortal country. Within the 9 provinces' immortal territory, the 9 provinces' immortal country status was similar to the supreme immortal sect of the 9 provinces' great world. Several hundred beautiful maidservants flew over from afar. Immortal light lingered around them. Within the immortal light, there was a divine carriage adorned with flowers. Those beautiful maidservants were all carrying flower baskets. As they flew, they scattered flower petals. In the forest, an elegant fragrance of flowers instantly permeated the air. Uncle Lin, there's a beautiful big sister in that flower carriage. Little Tian Tian pointed at the flower carriage that was surrounded by several hundred beautiful maidservants. Lin Feng looked over and saw a woman wearing a pink palace dress. That woman had a graceful figure and fair skin. Just by looking at her figure, one could tell that she was a peerless beauty. However, that woman had a veil over her face. It was hard to see her face. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel a little depressed. Little Tian Tian, this little girl called that woman Big Sister. She actually called him Uncle Lin. He was clearly very young, okay? That woman had probably been cultivating for 1,000 years. But how long had he been cultivating? Princess Lin is here. After seeing that woman, many people couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. That woman was called Zhao Lin. She was the princess of the 9 provinces' immortal country. Zhao Lin was very famous in the 9 provinces' immortal territory. She was known as the #1 beauty of the 9 provinces' immortal territory. Most importantly, not only was Zhao Lin beautiful, but she was also very talented. Her cultivation was unfathomable. Countless young elites and young masters of aristocratic families wanted to pursue Zhao Lin. However, none of them were able to win her heart. Do the disciples of these major powers bring so many people with them when they go out? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. Mo Tianyan, who was the first to arrive, brought over 100 people. Those who came later brought at least a few dozen people, and at most a few hundred people. Now, Princess Zhao Lin also brought over a few hundred beautiful maids. She was really too ostentatious. Now that so many people had gathered, it was obvious that they were all here for the sweet sound flower. Zhao Lin's arrival caused quite a stir, especially the young masters of aristocratic families. They all came to greet her. Zhao Lin kept smiling and chatting amiably with these young masters. Her figure is really not bad. I wonder what kind of celestial beauty is hidden under the veil. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. Brother, don't even think about it. Very few people have seen Princess Zhao Lin. How can ordinary people like us meet her? A cultivator said aloud. Lin Feng rubbed his chin. That's not necessarily true. Don't do anything stupid. Princess Zhao Lin's bodyguard can take your life. The cultivator continued. At that moment, Zhao Lin, who was talking to a group of young masters, suddenly made a sound of surprise. She looked in Lin Feng's direction. Princess Zhao Lin is looking at me. Is she looking at me? She's clearly looking at me. Could it be that she's interested in me? I think Princess Zhao Lin is interested in me. Maybe she fell in love with me at first sight. Look at her eyes. They're filled with adoration. Chapter 2452. Lin, what are you looking at? Mo Tianyan asked curiously. He was one of Zhao Lin suitors and was quite familiar with her. There were very few things that could pique her interest. The rest of the young masters also turned their heads to look, wanting to see what Zhao Lin was looking at. Dragon Rabbit, Zhao Lin said. Her gaze landed on the Dragon Rabbit, standing on Lin Feng's shoulder. The rest of the people were shocked when they heard the words Dragon Rabbit. Their gazes quickly landed on the Dragon Rabbit, standing on Lin Feng's shoulder. Dragon Horn, Rabbit Body, is this the legendary Dragon Rabbit? A young master from an aristocratic family said. He was dressed in white and looked very handsome. His name was Yi Yunfei. His family was also very big, not much weaker than the Mo family. Yes, it's a dragon rabbit. I once saw a picture of a dragon rabbit in a Taoist scripture. Zhao Lin said, dragon rabbits were very rare. Dragon rabbits had never appeared in the 9 states paradise. However, many people had heard of dragon rabbits because they could find treasures. That was why countless cultivators flocked to them. Being able to obtain a dragon rabbit was something that many people dreamed of, especially in the 9 states paradise. This place was filled with opportunities. If there was a dragon rabbit, how many opportunities would one be able to find? Does the princess want it? If so, I can help the princess get that dragon rabbit. A young master in blue brocade clothes said. This young master was called Du Tianyu. He was also from a top aristocratic family. Thank you for your kindness. Young Master Du, let Lin handle this matter herself. Zhao Lin said. Then she walked towards Lin Feng. The rest of the young masters also followed and surrounded Zhao Lin like a moon surrounded by a myriad of stars. In the entire 9 states paradise, only Zhao Lin could receive such treatment. To be able to have so many top-notch young masters surrounding her, wherever a peerless beauty like Zhao Lin went, she would be the center of attention. Zhao Lin's every move attracted the attention of countless people. Therefore, when Zhao Lin walked towards Lin Feng, many people also looked towards Lin Feng. Everyone was trying to guess Zhao Lin's motive. Some people recognized the dragon rabbit standing on Lin Feng's shoulder and were shocked. When they thought of Zhao Lin walking towards Lin Feng, they couldn't help but reveal pensive expressions. Sir, how should I address you? Zhao Lin bowed slightly to Lin Feng. Lin Feng, Lin Feng. Zhao Lin softly murmured Lin Feng's name, as though she was trying her best to recall which genius had this name in her memories. But he thought for a long time. He had never thought that any heaven's chosen would have such a name. At that moment, Mo Tianyan looked at Lin Feng and said, the genius ranking battle seems to have started recently. Are you a cultivator from the outside world? Lin Feng nodded. That's right. What? Someone from the outside world? Many people looked at Lin Feng in shock. Every cultivator who looked at Lin Feng had a look of envy and jealousy on their faces. Lin Feng could stay in the 9 states paradise for a year if he came from the outside world. During this year, he could search for all sorts of opportunities. Of course, he could also go to the 9 states immortal kingdom or the cities built by the various major factions. He could use the natural treasures from the outside world to exchange for the natural treasures and cultivation resources in the 9 states paradise. Most importantly, the cultivators who entered the 9 states paradise could leave after a year. After obtaining all sorts of opportunities, countless natural treasures, and cultivation resources, they could leave the 9 states paradise. From then on, their cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. But what about them? They couldn't leave and had to continue staying in the Nine States Paradise. Of course, the Nine States Paradise was big enough for ordinary cultivators. The Nine States immortal realm was a vast and boundless world. In such a world, they could work hard and struggle their entire lives, and perhaps one day they could become the best of the best. They wouldn't spend all their time thinking about leaving the Nine States Paradise. However, for those top experts, they actually yearned to leave. It was just like how the top cultivators of the Tianwu continent yearned to go to the Nine States world. The top cultivators of the Nine States world yearned to go to the undying world. Those top experts all hoped to go to a wider world to broaden their horizons. They didn't want to stay in one place all the time. Therefore, it was understandable that some people were envious of Lin Feng. Zhao Lin asked curiously, "What kind of world is the Nine States world?" Lin Feng said, "It's very big and has many factions. Furthermore, you can travel through the starry sky and follow the ancient starry sky path to wherever you want to go. For example, the undying world, the God world, the devil world, and so on." Lin Feng's words caused many people's thoughts to drift. It was as if they followed Lin Feng's train of thought and saw the vast Nine States world. It was as if they saw the boundless starry sky. It was the same for Zhao Lin. She also yearned to see the outside world. However, Zhao Lin's willpower was very strong. She quickly withdrew her thoughts and glanced at the dragon rabbit. Then she looked back at Lin Feng and asked, "Is this little beast of yours a dragon rabbit?" "Yes." Lin Feng nodded. The dragon rabbit's characteristics were very obvious. Therefore, those who knew a little about the dragon rabbit race would be able to recognize it at first glance. Lin Feng kept the dragon rabbit and Bibi in the mountain river ring most of the time. Firstly, the two little fellows were young and fond of sleeping. Secondly, the two little fellows were too extraordinary. If they were outside, it would be easy for others to spy on them. Of course, Zhao Lin, and the others only recognized the dragon rabbit. They didn't recognize Bibi. In fact, Bibi was a more terrifying spirit beast. Even the demon lord didn't dare to easily reveal Bibi's race. However, the demon lord was too tight-lipped. Even Lin Feng couldn't find out too much about Bibi from the demon lord. "I'm very interested in this dragon rabbit. Lin Gongzi, you can name a price. No matter the price, I will satisfy Lin Gongzi." Zhao Lin said, "Squeak, squeak, squeak, squeak." The dragon rabbit was psychic. When it heard that Zhao Lin wanted to buy it, it immediately screamed in anger. The little fellow bared its fangs at Zhao Lin and cried. Over the years, Lin Feng had encountered this situation more than once. He had encountered the same situation as Zhao Lin 7 or 8 times. When those cultivators saw the dragon rabbit, they wanted to buy it from Lin Feng. However, they were rejected by Lin Feng every time. "The dragon rabbit is like my family. I won't consider selling it." Lin Feng flatly refused. "Kid, don't be so shameless. If Princess Lin didn't want to buy your dragon rabbit, who do you think you are? Do you have the right to speak to Princess Lin?" Chapter 2453. Du Qianyu had always wanted to show off in front of Zhao Lin. Now that he saw Lin Feng actually reject Zhao Lin's request to buy the dragon rabbit, Du Qianyu felt that his chance to perform had come. If he could help Zhao Lin obtain the dragon rabbit, perhaps he would be able to gain more points in front of Zhao Lin. At that time, he might even be able to win her heart. Du Qianyu's wishful thinking was good, but this guy didn't know what kind of person Lin Feng was. Lin Feng wasn't someone who wouldn't retaliate after suffering a loss. It was already good enough that he didn't bully others. How could he let others bully him? Who do you think you are? Making a big fuss here? Your words alone are enough for you to die 10 times over. Do you know that? Lin Feng looked at Du Qianyu coldly. The surrounding people were all stunned after hearing Lin Feng's words. No one would have thought that Lin Feng would actually say these words to Du Qianyu. Lin Feng was just an outsider. He actually dared to be so presumptuous towards the children of the aristocratic families of the 9 regions. Perhaps it would be more appropriate to describe him as arrogant. He actually dared to be so arrogant in front of the children of the aristocratic families of the 9 regions. Everyone felt a sense of astonishment. Did he not want to live anymore? Brat, what did you say? Du Qianyu's face suddenly became extremely gloomy. In front of so many people, Lin Feng actually dared to look down on him. Wasn't this a slap to his face? Du Qianyu, this kind of aristocratic family descendant, valued face the most. So, how could he swallow this anger? Moreover, this was the 9 continents' immortal realm, not the 9 continents' world outside. In Du Qianyu's opinion, in the 9 regions' immortal realm, killing an outsider like Lin Feng was as simple as killing an ant. Now that Lin Feng dared to be so arrogant in front of him, Du Qianyu's heart was already filled with killing intent towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng naturally knew what Du Qianyu was thinking, but he didn't care at all. With his current cultivation and Xiao Tian by his side, let alone Du Qianyu, even if he were to face the entire Du family, he would not be able to do anything. Lin Feng had nothing to fear. He looked at Du Qianyu indifferently and said, "What? Can't you understand human language? This guy is too arrogant." Yeah, he's even more arrogant than I imagined. The cultivators in the prodigy ranking battle are all geniuses. I reckon their backgrounds are not bad. Moreover, it was Du Qianyu who spoke rudely first. It's normal for that kid to not give Du Qianyu face. But he forgot that this is not the 9 states world. This is the 9 states fairyland. Even a powerful dragon cannot defeat a local snake. What's more, this kid is so young. Even if his strength is extraordinary, it is only limited to the younger generation. What could they use to fight with the Du family? Isn't he courting death? Young and hot-blooded. Du Qianyu will not let this matter end so easily. Du Qianyu has brought over 100 cultivators with him, and there is no lack of experts among them. Du Qianyu is vicious and merciless. He might even kill that kid. Killing him would be letting him off too easily. It's very likely that they'll torture him ruthlessly and make him wish he was dead. They'll only kill him when he's tortured to the point where he doesn't even look human anymore, and his will collapses. The surrounding cultivators discussed animatedly. Obviously, no one was optimistic about Lin Feng's chances. After all, Lin Feng was a foreign cultivator. In these people's opinion, no matter how strong a foreign cultivator was, if he offended the local snake of the 9 states fairyland, only death awaited him. Du Qianyu looked at Lin Feng with a sinister gaze and said coldly, "Kid, you are the first person who dares to speak to me like this. You don't know what's good for you. It seems that I need to make an example out of you. Otherwise, others will think that any Tom, Dick, or Harry can jump around in front of me." Zhao Lin said, "The 2 of you, this matter started because of me. Can you give me some face and let it go?" Seeing that Zhao Lin was pleading for mercy, Du Qianyu had no choice but to give her some face. He said, "Princess Lin, of course I have to give you some face. As long as this kid licks the soles of my shoes clean, I will give you some face and spare his life." Ha ha! Lin Feng suddenly laughed. Du Qianyu's expression darkened. He looked coldly at Lin Feng and said, "What are you laughing at?" "I'm laughing at your stupidity. A piece of trash like you actually dares to jump around in front of me. How foolish. I only need one move to deal with trash like you," Lin Feng said indifferently. When he looked at Du Qianyu, his eyes were filled with disdain. This infuriated Du Qianyu. "Princess Lin, This kid is courting death. Don't blame me. Du Qianyu looked at Zhao Lin and waved his hand. More than 100 cultivators behind Du Qianyu surrounded Lin Feng. Capture him alive. I will torture this kid later. I want him to kneel in front of me like a dog, wagging his tail and begging for mercy. Du Qianyu's face was filled with a sinister smile. Yes, after receiving Du Qianyu's order, more than 100 guards responded. Then, the group of people pounced on Lin Feng like wolves and tigers. Kneel. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he released his epic aura. His epic aura had evolved. It was unknown how many times stronger it was than before. The epic aura enveloped more than 100 cultivators. Among the cultivators that were enveloped, there were more than a dozen giant God Realm cultivators and 2 first-grade quasi-emperors. However, as strong as they were, they could not resist Lin Feng's epic aura. The ordinary cultivators knelt on the ground with a thud. Those giant God Realm and quasi-emperor realm cultivators resisted for a while, but could not resist the terrifying aura emitted from Lin Feng's body. Thud, thud. Those giant God Realm and quasi-emperor realm cultivators all knelt on the ground. Now that Lin Feng's cultivation was at the heavenly God Realm, he could already contend with some quasi-emperor realm cultivators when he was at the peak of the true God Realm. After breaking through to the heavenly God Realm, Lin Feng did not know how strong he was. Dealing with a group of giant God Realm cultivators and 2 first-grade quasi-emperor realm cultivators was simply too easy. How is this possible? Am I seeing things? There are so many experts, but they are all suppressed by his aura. How terrifying is this person's cultivation? One by one, the cultivators cried out in shock, unable to believe what they were seeing. Lin Feng walked toward Du Qianyu like a demon or a god. His voice exploded like divine thunder, shaking heaven and earth. Chapter 2454. The crowd looked at Lin Feng as if they were looking at a god. Lin Feng was no different from a god. He was powerful, oppressive, and suffocating. You're going too far. Du Qianyu's expression was extremely ugly. He wanted to struggle. However, he was shocked to find that he couldn't break free from Lin Feng's pressure. Du Qianyu knew that he had kicked an iron plate today. He didn't expect Lin Feng to be so terrifying. Zhao Lin, and the others looked at Lin Feng in shock. The 9 continents paradise was the 9 continents world's holy land. Cultivating in the 9 continents paradise would allow one's cultivation to increase rapidly. However, they had cultivated in the 9 continents paradise for so many years, but when they faced Lin Feng, everyone still felt a suffocating sense of oppression. They knew that even if they attacked, they were far from being Lin Feng's match. The man in front of them was too terrifying. In the 9 continents paradise, where there were countless geniuses, the only ones who could defeat Lin Feng were the dozen or so heaven-defying geniuses. Those dozen or so heaven-defying geniuses had cultivated for between 3,000 to 10,000 years. Their cultivation was powerful and unfathomable. They had been able to defeat Lin Feng because they had practiced cultivation for longer than Lin Feng. In many people's opinion, if Lin Feng had cultivated for such a long time, it would be hard to say who would win. Lin Feng looked at Du Qianyu indifferently. Now you have the nerve to say that I'm going too far? How laughable! If my cultivation was weak, I would have been beaten half to death by now. As soon as Lin Feng finished speaking, he sent a palm strike at Du Qianyu. Du Qianyu also attacked Lin Feng. An illusory fist shadow condensed on Du Qianyu's fist. Within the illusory fist shadow, a world appeared. The world was mysterious and unfathomable. It could break the sky and was abnormally powerful. Du Qianyu's strength was actually very strong. However, his opponent, Lin Feng, was too powerful. Bang! The two sides collided, and a dull sound of collision was heard. Du Qianyu's body flew out like a kite with a broken string. Wow! Du Qianyu spat out a mouthful of blood in midair and fell to the ground with a plop. His body twitched violently. Du Qianyu could be considered one of the top geniuses of the 9 continents, but in Lin Feng's hands, he could not even receive a single move. He's too strong. A ferocious dragon will not cross the river. This person's cultivation is unimaginably terrifying. Du Qianyu has been beaten to such a state. The Du family won't let this matter rest, right? The Du family has a heaven-defying genius. Are you talking about Du Tianming? That person has been cultivating for 8,700 years. It's said that he reached the quasi-emperor realm in 175 years. I wonder how many Dao platforms he has managed to reach in the quasi-emperor realm. He's definitely one of the strongest in the quasi-emperor realm. If Du Tianming appears, I'm afraid this kid won't be a match for him. Even if Du Tianming doesn't make a move, the Du family won't let him off so easily. The Du family has many experts. The surrounding cultivators who were watching the show whispered to each other. The Du family was one of the top 10 families in the 9 continents. After so many years of ups and downs, they had accumulated a strong foundation. If the Du family made a move, there was no one they could not kill. Lin Feng was strong. However, he was only one person, and he had a 5-year-old child with him. Could he escape the Du family's pursuit? Lin Feng could not be bothered with Du Qianyu anymore. Du Qianyu's confidence had been shattered, and his spirit had been severely damaged. He would not be able to achieve much in this lifetime. Lin Feng carried little Tian Tian and stood on a mountain peak looking at the melodious lake. Many people looked at Lin Feng. Their eyes were filled with respect. Uncle Lin, if there are any bad guys in the future, you don't have to do anything. Little Tian Tian can defeat them. Little Tian Tian waved her fist and said, "Good girl." Lin Feng rubbed little Tian Tian's head. The melodious lake was very calm. Everyone was still waiting for the restriction around the lake to disappear. The restriction around the melodious lake was very powerful. Not only was the top of the melodious lake covered by a powerful restriction, even the bottom of the melodious lake was said to have a terrifying restriction. Therefore, one could not dive into the lake. Once one dived into the lake, it was very likely that one would die. The island of heaven fell to the mortal world. The beautiful butterflies flew around the flowers, flapping their wings and stirring up the wind. The flowers were adorned. The beautiful fairies walked out of the palace and walked among the clouds. The handsome, heavenly generals walked over with a bright smile. On that warm afternoon, the beautiful fairies and the handsome heavenly generals walked on colorful clouds, and toward the mortal world, melodious voices came from the inside of the wonderful sound lake. The voices seemed to have a magical power. When he heard those voices, he thought, that's right. Many people felt that their hearts were about to soften. Even the most beautiful songs couldn't compare to the voices coming from the melodious lake. The sounds coming from the wondrous sound lake were simply too beautiful to listen to. Is there a fairy sister singing inside? Little Tian Tian looked at the melodious lake and asked innocently. The name of the wonderful sound lake came from the pleasant sounds that came from the wonderful sound lake. However, no one knew where the voices came from. It was very strange to not be able to find the source. When the pleasant voices came again, the restriction around the lake dissipated. The restriction of the wonderful sound lake began to gradually dissipate. Once the restriction of the wonderful sound lake was completely gone, many cultivators quickly rushed towards the depths of the melodious lake. The melodious lake was very large. Whoosh! Suddenly, a huge wave rose from the lake. Many cultivators were swept away by the waves. They didn't even have the chance to make a sound before they were sucked into the lake and disappeared without a trace. No one was able to see them alive or dead. Seeing this scene, many people couldn't help but gasp. Weren't the waves from the melodious lake too strange? Those cultivators were so powerful, but they couldn't even struggle after being swept away by the waves. It was hard to imagine what secrets were hidden in the waves. Lin Feng tried his best to avoid the gigantic waves, which swept across the sky. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, waves of destructive aura filled the air. Something seemed to be rushing out from the depths of the melodious lake. Obviously, it wasn't easy to enter the melodious island to pick the melodious flower. Danger lurked everywhere in the melodious lake. Look, what's that? Chapter 2455. Everyone looked over and saw a blood-red cloud flying toward them. The blood-red clouds contained a destructive power, which was simply shocking and moving. Something's wrong. Let's go. Many people cried out in fear when they saw the blood-red cloud in the distance. The blood-red cloud in the distance made their hearts palpitate. No one knew what terrifying thing was hiding in the blood-red cloud. Everyone avoided it and flew into the distance, trying to get away from it as soon as possible. Screech! However, at that moment, a sharp, ear-piercing screech suddenly rang out. The screech shook the void and reverberated in all directions, shaking heaven and earth. Ah! Many cultivators cried out in pain. The screech was terrifying and contained a soul attack. Many cultivators were in great pain and suffering. Lin Feng hurriedly sent Bibi and Dragon Rabbit into the mountain river ring. The two little guys were still young and didn't know how to defend the soul. He didn't send little Tian Tian into the mountain river ring. Little Tian Tian was strong enough, and she didn't like staying in the mountain river ring. The sound wave attack from the blood-red cloud couldn't hurt Lin Feng and little Tian Tian. However, although they were not harmed by the sound wave attack, they were still in trouble. Blood clouds were surging in all directions, and they were rushing over at high speed. Many cultivators were swallowed by the blood-red cloud. Then white bones fell from the sky. The cultivators who were swallowed by the blood-red cloud had all turned into white bones. Seeing this scene, many people were so scared that their faces turned as white as paper. The blood-red cloud was too terrifying. Finally, the blood-red cloud gradually approached Lin Feng. At that moment, Lin Feng could clearly see what the bloody cloud was. It covered the sky and was tumbling violently, constantly swallowing cultivators. It wasn't a blood-red cloud at all. It was an endless number of blood-red bugs. There were too many of them. Therefore, when the blood-red bugs gathered together, it looked like a surging blood-red cloud. The blood-red bugs were very strange. They could send out sound wave attacks. A sound wave attack from a single bug wouldn't cause much damage to a cultivator. However, there was an endless number of blood-red bugs in front of him. He didn't know how many there were. So many blood-colored bugs released a sonic attack at the same time. The power was too strong, and even Lin Feng felt that it was troublesome. Demonic sonar bugs. They are demonic sonar bugs. These bugs are capable of using sound wave attacks. Moreover, they are impervious to weapons, water, and fire. To think that so many demonic sonar bugs have appeared here. What? This was the demonic sound bug. Rumor has it that the demonic sound bug feeds on the gods. I don't want to die. I'm still so young. I don't want to die here. Cries of terror could be heard everywhere. Some were even crying. The demon sound bugs were simply too terrifying. After finding out that the bugs before them were demon sound bugs, many of the cultivators had a mental breakdown. Jump into the lake. He thought of a way to avoid the demonic sound bugs and jumped into the lake to hide. Many cultivators jumped into the lake. Whoosh! At this moment, huge waves rolled in the lake. Lin Feng could vaguely see that there seemed to be something huge in the lake. The show was about to begin. The scales covering its body exuded a cold and sinister aura. There was an extremely terrifying wild beast hiding within the lake. The cultivators who had jumped into the lake to avoid the demonic sound bugs' attacks did not appear again. However, blood was flowing out from the lake. It was very likely that those cultivators had met with a calamity and died tragically in the lake. There are wild beasts in the lake. Lin Feng was not the only one who saw the wild beast in the lake. Many others saw it as well. He roared in horror. The cultivators who had wanted to jump into the lake to avoid the demonic sound bugs' attacks quickly stopped themselves. Screech! The demonic sound bugs unleashed their second wave of attacks. Many people clutched their heads and wailed in pain. The demon sound bugs would take advantage of the moment when the cultivators were suffering from soul attacks to pounce on them, devouring them completely. Only their blood-stained bones were left as they fell into the lake. Of course, there was no lack of experts among the cultivators who possessed extraordinary methods. They were able to escape from the demonic sound bugs. There were also some who relied on powerful magic treasures to kill their way out. A large number of demonic sound bugs flew toward Lin Feng and little Tian Tian. Lin Feng unleashed his heavenly fire to burn the demonic sound bugs. However, the heavenly fire was unable to harm the demonic sound bugs. This greatly shocked him. Aren't these demonic sound bugs' defenses a little too terrifying? Lin Feng frowned slightly. He retracted the heavenly fire into his body. Then, he used the great defense technique to condense a defensive crystal wall to protect him and little Tian Tian. The demonic sound bugs quickly surrounded them and began to gnaw at the defensive crystal wall. From the outside, the endless demonic sound bugs formed a huge ball of blood. Lin Feng and little Tian Tian were trapped inside. Uncle Lin, there are so many big bugs. Little Tian Tian pointed at the bugs. Wah! Little Tian Tian shrieked. Bang! 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 The demonic sound bugs surrounding Lin Feng and little Tian 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 were instantly reduced to ashes. Little Tian Tian was too terrifying. The other demonic sound bugs were so frightened that they quickly distanced themselves from Lin Feng and little Tian Tian. Countless cultivators died tragically wherever the demonic sound bugs went. In the end, the demonic sound bugs flew into the distance. They quickly disappeared without a trace. These damned bugs, I've finally survived. Lin Feng muttered to himself. The cultivators who had persevered or managed to escape heaved a sigh of relief. There were many cultivators in the periphery. When they saw the demonic sound bugs from afar, they did not dare to go deeper into the lake. Instead, they watched from afar and managed to escape this calamity. Lin Feng carried little Tian Tian and quickly flew toward the depths of the ingenious sound lake. Let's go and find the ingenious sound flower. Many cultivators whispered. They did not stop and quickly flew toward the depths of the ingenious sound lake. In the depths of the ingenious sound lake, there was a huge island that was shrouded in lightning. Thunderclouds covered the sky above the island. Lightning dragons and snakes swam around in the clouds. They emitted an aura that could destroy the heavens and the earth. The area within 30 miles of the ingenious sound island was shrouded in lightning. It's not easy to get the ingenious sound flower. The ingenious sound island doesn't only have the ingenious sound flower. I heard that there are many other precious resources. Is that so? What else is there? I'm not sure. It's said that the origin of the ingenious sound island is extremely mysterious. It's called the Heavenly Fallen Divine Island, and there are some lost races on it. In the outside world, you can't see those races anymore. Therefore, there are many amazing opportunities on the ingenious Sound Island. However, it's not easy to obtain those opportunities. You have to depend on your luck and luck. People kept entering the area covered in lightning. If they wanted to enter the ingenious Sound Island, they had to take the risk and pass through the area. More and more cultivators entered the area covered in lightning. Lin Feng carried little Tian Tian and entered the area as well. Bolts of lightning struck down one after another. They had to be careful when entering the area. The lightning contained the power of order. If they were struck, they could easily die. Swish! Without any sound, a cold light suddenly shot out from behind Lin Feng and slashed toward him. The attack was too sudden, and Lin Feng was caught off guard. Chapter 2456. To be able to hide so well that even Lin Feng and Xiao Tiantian couldn't sense his presence, one could only imagine how powerful this cultivator was. In theory, this attack was impossible to dodge. No one could dodge such a terrifying attack in such a short period of time, nor could they prepare a divine ability to block this attack in such a short period of time. Perhaps Lin Feng was the only one who could do it. This was because Lin Feng had a powerful divine ability. This divine ability was the heaven-mending art. By borrowing an opportunity from the heavens, the heaven-mending art could avoid any danger. Unless the opponent knew that Lin Feng knew the heaven-mending art and used a divine ability to suppress Lin Feng's heaven-mending art. Otherwise, no one would be able to stop Lin Feng's heaven-mending art. Whoosh! In the face of this sure-kill attack, Lin Feng disappeared without a trace. In the next moment, Lin Feng walked out of the void 20 meters away and punched the air in front of him. Bang! With a violent collision, the void shattered and a cultivator hidden in the void was blasted out. This cultivator held a sword in one hand and emitted a bone-chilling aura. This person should be an expert in the Tao of the sword. After seeing this cultivator, Lin Feng couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Someone from the Du clan? He asked. You're a smart person. The man with the sword said coldly, Du clan, Du Wenzong. I didn't kill Du Tianyu, which is already giving your Du clan face. You dare to cause trouble for me? Do you really think I have a good temper? Lin Feng said indifferently. At this moment, his heart was filled with murderous intent. Lin Feng had always been the kind of person who would respect others 10 times over if they respected him. Since the Du clan didn't want to let this matter go, Lin Feng, naturally, wasn't someone who was afraid of trouble. Humph! As a foreign cultivator, you dare to offend my Du clan? You're courting death. No one in this world can save your life. Du Wenzong's eyes flashed with a cold-killing intent. 100 slash. With a cold shout, he slashed out with the sword in his hand. Whoosh! Over 100 sharp sword lights condensed and slashed towards Lin Feng. In the face of such a terrifying sword light, Lin Feng was forced to retreat. Du Wenzong's sword technique was truly powerful. Uncle Lin, let little Tian Tian help you. Little Tian Tian said. Now that Lin Feng was holding little Tian Tian, his strength was greatly restricted. Little Tian Tian, little Tian Tian. She simply wanted to help Lin Feng. As a matter of course. All right, let's join hands and kill him. It'll save us a lot of time. At that moment, Lin Feng was in a hurry to go to the Miao-Yin Island to find the Miao-Yin flower. It was a precious treasure that could increase the strength of one's soul. And to waste. If this continued, the sweet sound flower would be taken by someone else. Joining forces with little Tian Tian was the best way to deal with Du Wenzong. Lin Feng didn't feel embarrassed at all. Boom! Lin Feng and little Tian Tian separated, and then the two of them forced Du Wenzong. I'll kill you first, "You little bastard." Du Wenzong sneered. He decided to kill little Tian first, and then Lin Feng. Little Tian was too young, about 5 or 6 years old. Du Wenzong guessed that little Tian was probably picked up by Lin Feng in the Jojo Wonderland. Of course, it could also be a transformed spiritual beast. Some top spiritual beasts could transform into human form, no matter if Lin Feng had picked her up or if little Tian was a spiritual beast. She was so young. Even if she was strong, how strong could she be? Therefore, Du Wenzong did not put little Tian in his eyes at all. His idea was to kill little Tian first, and then kill Lin Feng. Du Wenzong held his sword and became one with it. He tore through the void and instantly appeared in front of little Tian. He went straight for little Tian. Du Wenzong's lips curled into a cold smile. In his opinion, little Tian was dead meat. Little Tian wants to help Uncle Lin kill you, you big bad guy. Little Tian snorted and threw a punch. Bang! Little Tian's little fist swept out, and an unimaginably terrifying force suddenly erupted. Du Wenzong was still more than a meter away from little Tian, but he was sent flying by little Tian's fist. Barf! Du Wenzong spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was filled with shock and horror. Du Wenzong was a quasi-emperor cultivator on the 35th Dao platform. A cultivator of this level was roughly equivalent to an early-stage quasi-emperor. He was unusually strong. One must know that quasi-emperors had to ascend to the 99th Dao platform. Every time a quasi-emperor ascended a platform, his strength would increase greatly. How could a quasi-emperor who had ascended to the 35th Dao platform not be able to kill a young cultivator and a little girl? Lin Feng gave Du Wenzong the impression that he was strong, but not impossible to deal with. Little Tian, on the other hand, gave Du Wenzong the impression that she was a towering mountain that he could only look up to, but not climb. Challenging little Tian was simply suicide. Run. That was the only thought left in Du Wenzong's mind. If little Tian's cultivation was ordinary, he could have killed little Tian and then killed Lin Feng. But little Tian was simply too strong. With just one punch, she had completely destroyed Du Wenzong's self-confidence. Du Wenzong had just thought of running when the void split open and Lin Feng appeared. Just as Du Wenzong was about to kill little Tian, Lin Feng used his void travel technique and hid in the void. Du Wenzong's attention was all on little Tian, so he did not notice Lin Feng. When Du Wenzong was sent flying by little Tian and injured, Lin Feng appeared just in time. He used the 5 Emperor Dragon Fists to attack Du Wenzong. His punch condensed the phantoms of 5 great emperors. It was simply invincible. Gods and Buddhas would be killed if they stood in his way. Du Wenzong sensed the terrifying aura behind him and cursed inwardly. He wanted to dodge, but it was too late. He did not know the heaven patching technique. Naturally, he could not use the heaven patching technique to escape at this critical moment. Bang! Lin Feng's punch landed on Du Wenzong's body. Half of Du Wenzong's body exploded. It was extremely tragic. Lin Feng rushed forward, wanting to kill Du Wenzong once and for all. Burn my divine body. Space-time reversal. At this moment, Du Wenzong roared, and his body began to burn. In the blink of an eye, his body below his head was completely burned, turning into powerful energy. The surrounding space-time distorted, blocking Lin Feng. Du Wenzong's head wanted to tear the void apart and escape. I'll smash you to death. Little Tian snorted and threw a punch at the distorted space-time, smashing it into smithereens. Du Wenzong's head was sent flying. Lin Feng raised his right hand and slashed out a ray of sword chi. No! Du Wenzong screamed in horror. Puff. Chapter 2457. Du Wenzong died just like that. That little girl is actually so powerful. Many people stared at Lin Feng with their mouths agape. When Du Wenzong had appeared in the battle between little Tian Tian and Du Wenzong, many people had recognized him. Du Wenzong was a powerful existence with an unfathomable cultivation base. But in the end, Du Wenzong had been killed. What shocked everyone the most was the strength that little Tian Tian had displayed. It was simply too terrifying. They could not believe what they were seeing with their own eyes. Was she really a 5 or 6-year-old little girl with such a powerful cultivation? Although they could not believe it, little Tian Tian was indeed that age. It was only then that everyone realized that little Tian Tian wasn't a burden. Little Tian Tian's cultivation base was simply shocking. Let's go. After taking Du Wenzong's storage ring, Lin Feng said to little Tian Tian. Little Tian Tian stretched out her white and tender hand. Lin Feng grabbed little Tian Tian's hand and quickly flew inside. The thick bolts of lightning that descended from the sky had a great impact on many cultivators. However, Lin Feng and little Tian Tian were not affected at all. Roar! Suddenly, a deep roar came from the depths of the lightning bolts. Immediately after that, huge ferocious beasts charged out. Sky lightning beasts. Not good. These sky lightning beasts are very scary. Hurry up and charge over. Seeing the ferocious beasts, many cultivators cried out in fear. The sky lightning beasts were shaped like flood dragons with wings and scorpion-like tails. They could control lightning, and the barbs at the end of their tails were highly poisonous. These ferocious beasts were born in lightning. They were very powerful and had a savage temperament. They were cruel and bloodthirsty. Encountering a sky lightning beast in a world enveloped by lightning was very troublesome because the sky lightning beasts could control the lightning to attack the cultivators inside. Coupled with the fact that the sky lightning beasts had powerful attacks, it was very easy for the cultivators inside to suffer. The faster cultivators, or the cultivators who were closer to the Pleasant Sound Island, managed to rush out of the area enveloped by the thunderbolts in advance. As a result, they were not attacked by the sky thunder beasts. However, many of the cultivators were attacked by the sky lightning beasts. The sky lightning beasts were abnormally terrifying. They gathered the lightning bolts around them and furiously attacked the cultivators who tried to pass through the area enveloped by the lightning bolts. Miserable cries rang out one after another. Many cultivators were killed by the heavenly lightning beasts. The sky lightning beasts directly swallowed the cultivators without even chewing. Roar, roar, roar. 5 or 6 heavenly lightning beasts charged toward Lin Feng and little Tian Tian. Little beastie, little Tian Tian, let go of Lin Feng's hand and pounced towards the sky thunder beasts. She slapped one of them and jumped onto another. Hurry up and fly, little beastie, little Tian Tian giggled. The other heavenly thunder beasts were scared out of their wits and quickly fled. Too ferocious. The cultivators who saw this scene from afar couldn't help but wipe their sweat. It was hard to imagine that a 5-year-old girl could be so heaven-defying. The sky thunder beast, subdued by little Tian Tian, was trembling all over. It looked like it would fall into the lake at any moment. It was clearly frightened by little Tian Tian. Uncle Lin, let's ride little Tian Tian over there, said little Tian Tian. Lin Feng nodded and flew over. He landed on the sky thunder beast's back. Bring us over, and I'll spare your life, said Lin Feng. The sky thunder beast was psychic. Naturally, it could understand Lin Feng's words. Therefore, it flapped its wings and quickly flew toward the Pleasant Sound Island. In the area enveloped by the lightning bolts, many people were chased by the sky thunder beasts. They had nowhere to run. Lin Feng and little Tian Tian were an exception. They rode the Sky Thunder Beast to the Pleasant Sound Island. They landed on the Pleasant Sound Island and released the Sky Thunder Beast. The Pleasant Sound Island emitted a decaying aura. This aura made people feel very uncomfortable. Lin Feng frowned as he observed the island. He discovered something strange. There were traces of black energy lingering around the island. The black energy emitted a gloomy and cold aura. That gloomy and cold aura made Lin Feng feel that something was wrong. It's very similar to the aura of the netherworld. Why is there such an aura? It's really strange. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter, if too many people died, and the people who died were strong enough, they could form a magnetic field. Therefore, there is a saying that when vengeful spirits gather in the netherworld, even the king of hell would be alarmed. I think this place is very dangerous. The demon lord transmitted his voice to Lin Feng. Lin Feng touched his chin and pondered over the demon lord's words. Then he nodded and said, "This place is full of danger. There is no need to make a fuss about anything that happens." He and little Tian Tian did not stay outside for long. Instead, they quickly rushed towards the depths. From time to time, the roars of beasts would resound through the mountain forest. There were many powerful, vicious beasts on the Pleasant Sound Island. Now, these vicious beasts were attacking the cultivators who entered the island. Ordinary cultivators had to form groups to enter the island. Otherwise, they would die. Only extremely powerful cultivators were able to enter alone. Lin Feng and little Tian Tian were the first group of cultivators to enter the Pleasant Sound Island. Not long after, they were attacked by a group of flying spiders. The flying spiders were about the size of a wash basin. Each of the flying spiders exuded a terrifying aura. Moreover, the flying spiders could spit out poisonous gas and poisonous webs. The flying spider's poisonous gas was extremely powerful. After absorbing it, the body would feel weak and powerless. The flying spider's poisonous webs contained extremely terrifying corrosive properties. Once the body touched it, it would immediately corrode and turn into a pool of dirty blood. Facing the attacks of the flying spiders, Lin Feng had no choice but to take out his defensive treasure, the purple gold globe, to protect himself and little Tian Tian. These poisonous insects were the most difficult to deal with. Because there were too many of them, once they were poisoned, even the white jade toad would not be able to detoxify them. Fortunately, Lin Feng and little Tian Tian's cultivation was strong enough. They successfully broke through the encirclement of the flying spiders. The flying spiders were not willing to let them go and chased after them. However, Lin Feng and little Tian Tian still managed to shake off the flying spiders that were chasing them. Lin Feng and little Tian Tian found a mountain forest to rest. Roar! At this moment, a loud dragon's roar came from afar, startling Lin Feng and little Tian Tian. "Little dragon, eat meat," little Tian Tian said in a childish voice. The little girl seemed to want to eat dragon meat. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. "Let's go and see what's going on." Chapter 2458. Lin Feng and Lil Tian Tian soon arrived at the source of the dragon's roar. It was a huge pool of water. Deep within the pool was a 10,000-meter-tall mountain peak. A waterfall cascaded down from the peak, looking majestic and majestic. It was as if the Milky Way had descended from the 9 heavens. Dozens of cultivators were besieging a huge dragon. The dragon belonged to the Eastern Dragon tribe. Similar to the sky dragons, it had a slender body covered in scales. Its body was about 300 meters long, and it was vigorous and powerful. Its coiling body was like a mountain ridge. But unlike the dragons of the East, this giant dragon had a pair of huge wings. That gigantic dragon was the winged dragon of the Eastern Dragon tribe. Winged dragons were born with the ability to control clouds, rain, and lightning. Little dragonling, Lil Tion Tion, pointed at the surrounded winged dragon. Her voice was childish, and her jade-like face was incomparably adorable. Anyone who saw her for the first time would fall in love with her. Let's keep it down. Let's see what the outcome of this battle is, Lin Feng said. Lil Tion Tion hurriedly nodded, then covered her mouth with her tiny hands. The winged dragon was extremely powerful. It spat out lightning and arrows at the surrounding cultivators. The cultivators took out their magic treasures or used all sorts of powerful magic to attack the winged dragon. A fierce battle ensued. More than a dozen cultivators died, and the winged dragon was heavily injured. Both sides had suffered great losses. Crack, crack, crack. At this moment, the ground cracked open and a huge beast drilled out from the ground. It was nearly 1,000 meters long, and it looked like a velociraptor that had been magnified many times over. Its body was covered in black scales, and its head was different from the velociraptor's. The vicious beast's head was very strange. It had a bloody mouth and a pair of enormous eyes. Waves of ferocious energy surged out of the vicious beast's body. A skeletal lizard. Lin Feng was shocked. So it was a creature like that. This was a type of vicious beast that lived underground. Back then, it was in the great world of exile. The skeletal lizards wreaked havoc everywhere, and countless people died under their claws. However, even the largest skeletal lizard in the great exiled world was only 100 meters long. However, the skeletal lizard in front of him was simply too huge. After the skeletal monitor lizard appeared, it immediately charged into the battlefield and swung its huge tail at the cultivators. "Hurry up and dodge!" A group of cultivators exclaimed in horror. The giant skeletal lizard had appeared so suddenly that they didn't have time to dodge its attack. Bang, bang, bang. A series of violent collisions rang out as one cultivator after another was sent flying by the skeletal lizards. Wow! In midair, he vomited large mouthfuls of blood. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper. He had suffered severe injuries. Before those cultivators could react, they were already swallowed by the skeletal lizards. Roar! The skeletal lizard let out a low roar, then opened its bloody mouth and bit at Yinglong's neck. Winged dragon opened its bloody maw and spat out a ball of lightning at the skeletal lizard. Then winged dragon flapped its wings, and its huge body soared into the sky in an attempt to escape. Winged dragon was very powerful, but it had just fought a bloody battle with a large group of cultivators and was severely injured. Therefore, it was no match for the skeletal lizard at all. Hence, winged dragon didn't intend to fight to the death with the skeletal lizard. Winged dragon wanted to leave, but the skeletal lizard had no intention of letting it go. The skeletal lizard opened its mouth and sucked in. The ball of lightning that winged dragon spat out was swallowed by the skeletal lizard. At the same time, the skeletal lizard's tail quickly coiled around winged dragon's body. The skeletal lizard's huge body leaped up and arrived in front of winged dragon. It bit down on winged dragon's neck. Crack! Winged dragon's neck was bitten off. The powerful winged dragon didn't last more than a few moves under the skeletal lizard's attack before it was killed. The skeletal lizard swallowed winged dragon. Buzz! At that moment, a ball of energy rushed out from the depths of the pool. Is it that treasure? Lin Feng was shocked. Winged dragon must have fought a life-and-death battle with a group of cultivators for some treasure. Lin Feng guessed that it was the ball of energy that had just flown out. Roar! The skeletal lizard let out a low roar, wanting to swallow the ball of energy. However, the ball of energy was extremely fast. It instantly broke free from the skeletal lizard's devouring. Little ball is flying over Little Tian Tian cried out in surprise and quickly rushed out, wanting to catch the ball of energy. She was very childlike, so she was extremely excited when she saw the ball of energy. However, the ball of energy was extraordinary. It also broke free from little Tian Tian. Lin Feng quickly rushed over. He opened his hand and grabbed the ball of energy. A powerful force surged out of the ball of energy and sent Lin Feng flying. So strange. Lin Feng was shocked. He waved his hand, and the heaven-devouring jar flew out. Powerful magic power surged into the jar. Buzz. The heaven-devouring jar emitted shocking waves of energy. Then, a powerful suction force surged out. The ball of energy was devoured by Lin Feng's heaven-devouring jar. Ha 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 ha, I got the treasure. Lin Feng laughed. Roar! The skeletal lizard let out a furious roar and pounced at Lin Feng. Lin Feng swung his fist at the lizard. Bang! The two sides collided. An earth-shattering strength penetrated into Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng was blown away by the gigantic skeleton lizard. Lin Feng was astonished. The gigantic skeleton lizard was too strong. You're not allowed to bully Uncle Lin, little Tian Tian snorted and circled behind the skeletal lizard, grabbing its tail. Then she exerted force. The skeletal lizard's huge body was sent flying by little Tian Tian. Bang, bang, bang. The surrounding giant trees and a few low mountain peaks were all smashed by the lizard's head. Hee 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 hee. This is so fun. Little Tian Tian giggled as she grabbed the lizard's tail and swung its huge body around. Lin Feng could not help but wipe his sweat. Only little Tian Tian could take down such a strong skeletal lizard, right? If anyone else saw such a huge skeletal lizard, wouldn't they be scared half to death? Crack, 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 crack. Just as Tian Tian was having fun, the ground began to crack open. One after another, skeletal lizards crawled out from the ground. As far as the eye could see, there was no end to the sea of skeletal lizards. Roar, roar, roar. Chapter 24:59. Seeing so many skeletal lizards, little Tian Tian was scared out of her wits. She threw the skeletal lizard in her hand out. Lin Feng caught little Tian Tian and used the purple gold heavenly ball to protect the two of them. Then he quickly rushed into the distance. Boom, boom, boom. The skeletal lizards opened their mouths and spat out energy balls at Lin Feng and little Tian Tian. Bang, bang, bang. The energy balls slammed into the energy shield formed by the purple gold heavenly ball. The purple gold heavenly ball's defense was very strong. It blocked the energy ball's attacks. However, there were simply too many of these skeletal lizards, and their attacks came wave after wave. The purple gold heavenly ball could not block the attacks forever. Now, Lin Feng and little Tian Tian were in trouble. Uncle Lin, little Tian Tian is scared. Little Tian Tian hugged Lin Feng. This little girl was usually not afraid of anything. However, there were simply too many of these skeletal lizards, and the little girl couldn't help but feel fearful. Don't be afraid. Uncle is here. Lin Feng patted the little girl's head and quickly rushed out. Boom, boom. The skeletal lizards continued to release energy balls at Lin Feng and little Tian Tian. After blocking 3 waves of attacks in a row, Lin Feng was gradually unable to hold on. Cracking sounds could be heard. The defensive shield formed by the purple gold heavenly ball began to crack. For Lin Feng, the situation was very bad. His expression turned grave. There were simply too many skeletal lizards. Trying to escape from the siege of so many skeletal lizards was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Looks like I'll have to use this treasure. Lin Feng raised an eyebrow. Swoosh! With a flash of light, Lin Feng took out a huge hammer surrounded by endless lightning energy. This hammer was the forbidden weapon, the purple lightning hammer. The real purple lightning hammer could be an immortal-grade treasure. Therefore, the forbidden artifact, purple lightning hammer, was extremely terrifying. However, he still had one more use of the purple lightning hammer. After this usage was used up, the forbidden artifact, purple lightning hammer, would be destroyed. Although this forbidden artifact was powerful, it could only be used 10 times. After using it 10 times, this was one of the greatest weaknesses of forbidden artifacts. Now that the situation was dangerous, Lin Feng naturally couldn't care about anything else. As long as he could preserve his life, not to mention a mere forbidden tool, destroying any magic treasure would be worth it. If a Dharma treasure was destroyed, he could still find a way to obtain a new one. If a person dies, then he would really become a pile of yellow soil. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying waves of energy surged out from the purple lightning hammer and poured into the purple lightning hammer along with mana. With the purple lightning hammer as the center, the powerful lightning energy began to spread in all directions. The most formidable aspect of the purple lightning hammer was its area of effect attribute. Different magic treasures had different effects. Some magic treasures were suitable for one-on-one combat. Some Dharma treasures were suitable for group attacks. The purple lightning hammer was the most suitable magic treasure for group attacks. When the purple lightning hammer was activated, thick bolts of lightning intertwined and spread out in all directions. Waves after waves of destructive energy waves shook the hearts of everyone present. Divine, hammer, break, 10,000. Beasts, Lin Feng couldn't help but roar. He smashed out with the hammer. Boom. Then a destructive force spread between heaven and earth. The lightning energy that surged out from the purple lightning hammer seemed to have its own spirituality. It actually condensed into purple lightning dragons. The purple lightning dragons and the skeletal lizards were engaged in a fierce battle. The weaker giant skeletal lizards were no match for the purple lightning dragons and were directly sent flying by the purple lightning dragons. Although the powerful giant skeletal lizards blocked the attack of the purple lightning dragons, they no longer had the energy to attack Lin Feng and little Tian Tian. As Lin Feng's cultivation base increased, the power of the forbidden weapon, the purple lightning hammer, was gradually released. The only pity was that the purple lightning hammer, a powerful forbidden weapon, would be completely destroyed after this use. There was no way to continue using it. Lin Feng used the purple lightning hammer, a powerful forbidden weapon, to kill a bloody path through the crowd of giant skeletal lizards. Whoosh! He carried little Tian Tian and quickly rushed out. Crack! Crack! The purple lightning hammer began to crack. This powerful forbidden weapon was destroyed just like that. It would be great if I could find the real purple lightning hammer. This magic treasure is too powerful. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. The purple lightning hammer was one of the top 10 magic treasures of the absolute beginning era. Naturally, it was a magic treasure that everyone dreamed of. Lin Feng was no exception. He hoped to obtain this treasure. However, he didn't know if this treasure still existed in the world today. After all, countless top-tier true treasures had been destroyed in the great battles that took place one after another. Many magic treasures, like the purple lightning hammer, had been destroyed in those battles. Roar, roar, roar. Angry roars could be heard from behind. The giant skeletal lizards were infuriated and quickly chased after Lin Feng. However, how could the speed of these giant skeletal lizards be compared to Lin Feng? After Lin Feng escaped the encirclement of the giant skeletal lizards, he was like a dragon entering the sea. How could these giant skeletal lizards catch up to him? After escaping from the giant skeletal lizards, Lin Feng couldn't wait to see what was inside the energy ball that the heaven-devouring jar had swallowed. He could sense that it was definitely not an ordinary item. Lin Feng found a secluded cave and sealed it. Then he sent little Tian Tian into the mountain river ring and let her play with Bibi and the dragon rabbit. Although little Tian Tian didn't like to enter the mountain river ring, she was even more unwilling to stay in a narrow cave. At this moment, Lin Feng took out the energy ball. When the energy ball flew out, the energy ball gradually condensed. Lin Feng's strength gradually disappeared, and a bone appeared in Lin Feng's vision. A bone? It's actually a bone. Lin Feng was shocked. He didn't expect that the energy ball would actually contain a bone. When Lin Feng reached out to touch the bone, that piece of bone was actually emitting a terrifying killing intent. Bam! The killing intent hit Lin Feng directly and sent Lin Feng flying. Lin Feng's face flushed red, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He stared at the bone with a horrified expression. What kind of bone was this? How could it be so terrifying? Roar! Suddenly a low roar was heard, and the bone transformed into a ferocious beast. That ferocious beast roared at Lin Feng in a deep voice. Chapter 2460. Its entire body was covered in snow-white fur, exuding endless ferocity. This was actually a white tiger, azure dragon, black tortoise, vermilion bird, and brilliant snake. These were the 5 sacred beasts. They corresponded to the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Therefore, they were also called the sacred beasts of the 5 elements. The white tiger guarded the west. The 5 elements belonged to metal. Among the 5 sacred beasts, it was mainly responsible for killing. Therefore, the white tiger's attack power was the strongest. Lin Feng did not expect this bone to be the bone of a white tiger. Moreover, this bone was obviously extraordinary. It could even exude such a terrifying killing intent. He did not know how terrifying the cultivation of this white tiger was when it was alive. The white tiger bone floated in midair, exuding a terrifying killing intent. Lin Feng could not get close to this bone because every time he tried to get close to this bone, he could feel the terrifying killing intent from the bone wanting to attack him. This made Lin Feng frown involuntarily. I can't get close to this bone, Lin Feng muttered to himself. At this time, a light bulb flashed in his mind. Lin Feng thought of the white tiger killing intent that he comprehended. This was a powerful force. The power was astonishing. The white tiger killing intent was also the force condensed by the white tiger clan. Lin Feng could only comprehend it by chance. He did not know that the white tiger killing intent seemed to be effective at this time. He began to condense the white tiger killing intent. Buzz! Waves of violent fluctuations surged out. Within Lin Feng's body, it exuded a cold killing intent. It was the white tiger killing intent. When the white tiger killing intent in Lin Feng's body was released, the white tiger bone seemed to have sensed it. Roar! The white tiger phantom that the white tiger bone had evolved let out a low roar at Lin Feng. Then, the white tiger phantom dissipated. The terrifying killing intent that was emitted from the white tiger bone also began to gradually converge. Whoosh! The white tiger bone rushed out at top speed. Lin Feng was puzzled. He also rushed out. The white tiger bone was not trying to escape. Instead, he was leading Lin Feng to a certain place. This made him extremely curious. He didn't know where the white tiger bone was taking him. Lin Feng followed behind the white tiger bone. One day later, Lin Feng entered an area shrouded in black fog. That area emitted a cold and gloomy aura. He frowned slightly, feeling that this place was a little strange. The speed of the white tiger bone was very fast. He turned into a white stream of light and rushed into the depths. Lin Feng didn't have time to think about anything else. He quickly chased after the white tiger bone. Finally, the white tiger bone stopped at the periphery of a pitch-black mountain. The white tiger bone brought me here. Could there be something in this mountain? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter, "Woo, woo, woo." At this moment, a series of eerie sounds reverberated throughout the world, sounding like the cries of malicious ghosts. Huff, 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 gusts of chilly wind blew, eerie and terrifying. Following that, countless malicious ghosts appeared from all directions. They were densely packed and innumerable, completely surrounding the area. There are so many malicious ghosts. Moreover, their auras are so terrifying. Looking at the malicious ghosts, Lin Feng's expression turned solemn. It was just as the demon lord had said. Vengeful spirits gathered in the nether passage realm. Even the king of hell would be shocked. The malicious ghosts that appeared before him were vengeful spirits that hadn't dispersed and had turned into malicious ghosts. It was no wonder that when he entered the island, he had sensed the aura of the nether passage realm. It seemed that there were too many malicious ghosts and their vengeful spirits were too strong, so they had connected to the nether passage realm. That was why the power of the nether passage realm had appeared on Melody Island. Netherworld envoy. Suddenly, a sinister and hoarse voice came from the mountain. Next, a black-robed existence walked out. It was clear that this black-robed being was one of the more powerful evil ghosts among these evil ghosts. I didn't expect so many malicious ghosts to gather here. It seems that I have to send you to the nether passage realm. Lin Feng said indifferently, "Do you know the owner of this bone? It was a white tiger saint beast. Back then, it accidentally entered this place and died. Compared to that white tiger saint beast, you are far inferior. How dare you say that you want to send us to the nether passage realm? What a joke. I think we should be the ones sending you to hell." The black-robed, malicious ghost said sinisterly. The other vengeful ghosts all laughed eerily. There were too many malicious ghosts, and they were too powerful. Now that they had gathered together, it was too terrifying. However, Lin Feng didn't believe that these malicious ghosts had the strength to kill the white tiger saint beast. Brag. Keep bragging with your strength. You can kill the white tiger saint beast. You should have a bottom line when bragging, right? I've never seen someone as good at bragging as you. Don't you have any shame? Lin Feng curled his lips and said with disdain. He didn't believe that these malicious ghosts could kill the white tiger saint beast. In reality, the situation was just as Lin Feng had guessed. The white tiger saint beast wasn't killed by these malicious ghosts. The white tiger saint beast had died because of its severe injuries. The white tiger saint beast was responsible for killing. After it died, the killing intent and resentment on its body were extremely dense. Killing intent and resentment were all negative energies. They were great nourishment for these malicious ghosts. Hence, these malicious ghosts gathered together. From then on, they didn't leave this place. More and more malicious ghosts gathered. When these malicious ghosts gathered together, they actually connected to the nether passage realm. After absorbing the energy of the nether passage realm, the cultivation of these malicious ghosts rose steadily. They became stronger and stronger. She was no longer an ordinary evil ghost. After being exposed by Lin Feng, the black-robed, malicious ghost didn't feel embarrassed. He sneered and said, "Kid, you should be worried about whether you can keep your life. Don't worry about whether I'm bragging or not. Although you are a netherworld envoy, your cultivation isn't enough. Today you will die. We are very interested in devouring the flesh of a netherworld envoy. Attack!" The black-robed, malicious ghost waved his hand. Screech! All of a sudden, the vengeful ghosts around them let out sharp, ear-piercing shrieks. One by one, the malicious ghosts pounced towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng activated the Netherworld Envoy Talisman to suppress these malicious ghosts. The Netherworld Envoy Talisman strengthened Lin Feng. However, these malicious ghosts didn't belong to the Nether Passage realm. Hence, although the Netherworld Envoy Talisman could suppress the power of these malicious ghosts, it couldn't completely suppress them. There were many powerful malicious ghosts, and their attack power was still extremely terrifying. Moreover, there were so many malicious ghosts, and their numbers were innumerable. The situation was extremely dangerous. Lin Feng sneered and said, "It's a good opportunity to devour you malicious ghosts and cultivate a few more powerful ghost emperors for me." As soon as he said that, Lin Feng took out the ghost rearing jar. The ghost rearing jar emitted a terrifying devouring power. There was a dense horde of malicious ghosts. Chapter 2461. Lin Feng's ghost rearing jar was extremely powerful and specialized in devouring all kinds of ghosts. Naturally, it could also devour these malicious ghosts. Eat, eat, eat. I want to eat these malicious ghosts and continue to evolve. The Ghost Emperor in the ghost rearing jar let out a series of excited roars. The Ghost Emperor could continuously devour malicious ghosts to increase its strength. The Ghost Emperor's strength was already strong enough. Even Lin Feng would not be able to subdue it easily. Therefore, Lin Feng would definitely not let the Ghost Emperor succeed. Therefore, he imprisoned the Ghost Emperor in a corner of the ghost rearing jar. The ghost rearing jar had its own space. Therefore, there was enough space to cultivate powerful ghosts. The Ghost Emperor was not cooperating with Lin Feng now. When Lin Feng cultivated a few more Ghost Emperors, there would definitely be new Ghost Emperors that would recognize Lin Feng as their master. At that time, Lin Feng could directly eliminate the Ghost Emperors that did not cooperate with him, and let the Ghost Emperors that had submitted to him devour the Ghost Emperors that did not cooperate with him. At that time, the strength of the Ghost Emperors that had submitted to Lin Feng would increase greatly. Lin Feng's plan was pretty good. Now, everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. His ghost rearing jar was extremely powerful. This ghost rearing jar was the nemesis of all ghosts. This was a treasure that Xian Yueling had casually given to Lin Feng back then. When Lin Feng was training in the underground city, he got to know Xian Yueling. This woman was extremely mysterious. Together with Lin Feng, they formed the male and female evil duo and robbed many cultivators. However, Lin Feng had never figured out Xian Yueling's identity. Ever since they parted, there had been no news of Xian Yueling. He did not know if he would have the chance to see Xian Yueling again. Boom, boom, boom. Waves of destructive power surged out, shaking the void. The powerful devouring power surged out continuously, devouring the densely packed malicious ghosts. Although these malicious ghosts were powerful, they could not do anything against all things in the world. Now, these malicious ghosts were restrained by Lin Feng. Therefore, although these malicious ghosts were constantly struggling, however, they could not escape from the devouring power of the ghost rearing jar. Damn it, it's actually the ghost raising jar. The black-robed malicious spirit couldn't help but let out a furious roar. "Leave this place," the black-robed malicious spirit roared. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The horde of wraiths quickly retreated. The black-robed malicious spirit couldn't wait to cut Lin Feng into pieces, eat Lin Feng's flesh, and drink Lin Feng's blood. However, the black-robed malicious ghost was also suppressed by the ghost raising jar. Therefore, the black-robed malicious ghost could only temporarily avoid Lin Feng's attacks. Under the leadership of the black-robed ghost, the horde of ghosts quickly retreated. Seeing the ghosts retreat, Lin Feng felt that it was a pity. Therefore, in Lin Feng's eyes, These malicious ghosts were resources for him to nurture experts. Now that these vengeful ghosts had fled, his plan to nurture a few more ghost emperors had been put on hold. I wonder if I can nurture a ghost emperor from the evil ghosts I devoured previously. He would be able to find out after a while. Lin Feng kept the ghost-raising jar. At this time, the white tiger beast bone rushed towards the depths of the mountain range, and Lin Feng followed closely behind. As they went deeper into the mountain range, Lin Feng felt a terrifying killing intent. This killing intent was simply suffocating. That is, in a valley, Lin Feng saw a skeleton. The skeleton emitted a cold aura that permeated between heaven and earth. The killing intent condensed around the skeleton even caused the void to distort slightly. White tiger skeleton. Lin Feng looked at the skeleton in shock. This white tiger skeleton was actually completely preserved. He didn't know if the origin bone of the white tiger skeleton was preserved or not. For a terrifying creature like the white tiger sacred beast, the origin bone would often be imprinted with some powerful inheritance. The inheritance of the white tiger sacred beast was too shocking. It was enough to make anyone go crazy. Lin Feng channeled the white tiger killing intent and gradually approached the white tiger skeleton. Roar! Suddenly, an earth-shaking roar came from the white tiger skeleton. Next, a ball of energy flew out, and a slightly illusory white tiger appeared in the ball of energy. This is the white tiger origin spirit. Lin Feng was shocked when he saw the slightly illusory white tiger. The white tiger origin spirit was very important to Lin Feng. This was because Lin Feng had the white tiger clone among his 9 emperor clones. Currently, Lin Feng had refined 4 clones of the 9 emperor clones. One was the golden-winged rock clone. The reason why Lin Feng's speed was so fast was because of the golden-winged rock clone. The heaven-eyed demonic snake clone. Lin Feng's heaven-eyed demonic snake clone was related to the heaven-eyed demonic snake clone. The radiant angel clone. Lin Feng had obtained the ability to control the power of light, but he had never used the radiant angel clone's ability. The Qiong-Qi clone. Lin Feng had now transformed into a 2-headed Qiong-Qi clone. When Lin Feng was in the early stages of his cultivation, it was one of his trump cards. The white tiger clone was mainly used for killing. It was the clone with the strongest offensive power among the 9 emperor clones. If Lin Feng could refine the white tiger clone, it would be a great boost to his battle prowess. Lin Feng was very much looking forward to refining the 9 emperor clones. This was because the method to refine the 9 emperor clones originated from the 9 emperors diagram. It was rumored that the 9 emperors diagram was much more terrifying than the 9 demons diagram of the heavenly demon clan. The 9 demons diagram of the heavenly demon clan, when combined into one, was at least one of the top 3 emperor weapons. The 9 emperors diagram was far more powerful than the 9 demons diagram. Lin Feng guessed that the 9 emperors diagram might be an immortal artifact. After refining the 9 emperor clones, it would not only increase his battle prowess. It was said that he could also sense the 9 emperors diagram. At that time, he might be able to find the 9 emperors diagram. If he could find the 9 emperors diagram, it would be too heaven-defying. This was equivalent to having an additional immortal artifact. The white tiger original spirit was very ferocious. It emitted a cruel and bloodthirsty aura, wanting to devour Lin Feng. Lin Feng sneered. If it was the white tiger's sacred beast, he would turn and run without thinking. Now, it was only the white tiger original spirit attacking him. Lin Feng naturally would not put a mere white tiger original spirit in his eyes. He operated the arm of dragon and elephant and blasted out 3 punches in a row. Bang, bang, bang. Lin Feng and the white tiger original spirit collided 3 times. the white tiger original spirit directly exploded. Then Lin Feng took out a porcelain bottle and kept the white tiger original spirit inside. Hee. With the white tiger original spirit, when I collect enough materials, I can refine the white tiger clone. Lin Feng's lips curled into a smile. His gaze immediately looked at the white tiger bone. His eyes could not help but reveal a burning gaze. The white tiger bone could still emit such a strong killing intent. The origin bone should still be there. He approached the white tiger bone, step by step. Found it. Arriving beside the white tiger bone, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. Chapter 2462. Lin Feng held the golden white tiger bone in his hand. Upon closer inspection, he realized that it was covered in runes. Those runes were mysterious and unfathomable. It emitted a tyrannical fluctuation and aura. It really is the origin bone. Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised. Obtaining the source bone was an extremely important matter to him, who knew the White Tiger clan's heaven-defying inheritance might be recorded on the source bone. If that was the case, then he would have profited greatly. These ordinary beast bones are actually not damaged. This is really great. These white tiger bones can be used as materials to refine my white tiger avatar. Lin Feng took all the white tiger bones and put them away. Now that he had the white tiger skeleton, he only needed to find some supplementary materials to refine the white tiger clone. Lin Feng did not leave the valley. The evil ghost army had already fled, so this place was very safe. Lin Feng planned to study the white tiger origin bone carefully. His divine will entered the white tiger origin bone. Immediately, Lin Feng heard a domineering roar. He felt as if he had been pulled into an ancient world. That ancient world was filled with war cries. Countless gods, demons, immortals, demons, Buddhas, and other races were fighting in midair. It was hard to tell who had the upper hand. This should be one of the great wars in history. Over the long years, many great wars had broken out in the myriad of worlds. Many of them were extremely tragic. Those great wars had even led to the end of many great eras. Therefore, Lin Feng did not know which great war had broken out in this world. Roar. A tiger's roar came from afar. A dense group of cultivators was attacking a white tiger sacred beast. The situation was extremely dangerous. The white tiger sacred beast was severely injured. Am I going to die? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. At that moment, the white tiger's sacred beast emitted a terrifying aura. Boom. When the aura was emitted, it could destroy the world and shatter the firmament. That was the white tiger's domineering aura. The white tiger was in charge of killing. Therefore, the domineering aura condensed by the white tiger was an extremely violent domineering aura that was extremely powerful. Among the 9 types of domineering aura, the white tiger domineering aura belonged to the 7th grade of domineering aura. It was the Cyan Haki. This kind of domineering aura was heaven-defying in terms of attack, defense, deterrence, and so on. The white tiger's domineering aura was released. The cultivators who were besieging the white tiger simply couldn't bear it. Their bodies exploded, and they died on the spot. All the images disappeared without a trace. Lin Feng's inner sight returned to reality. Huff, huff, huff. He was panting heavily. His face revealed an incomparably shocked expression. He looked at the white tiger origin bone in his hand, his voice filled with excitement. White tiger haki. It's actually white tiger haki. This is Cyan haki. Among the 9 types of haki, it's the 7th level of haki. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. He never thought that the white bone origin bone would record the white bone dominance. This was a pleasant surprise for him. It could even be said to be a huge surprise. Now, Lin Feng had cultivated the epic haki and the supreme haki. He knew how terrifying the hockey was, and how powerful the hockey was for cultivation. Theoretically speaking, Lin Feng could now do 3 things at once. He could activate 3 types of hockey at the same time. It was unknown how powerful the 3 types of hockey would be when used together, and it was said that a cultivator could cultivate up to 9 types of hockey. Different types of hockey had different power, and the focus was also different. Some hockey might be the main attack. For example, the white tiger hockey had extremely powerful attack power. Some hockey focused on defense. For example, the black tortoise hockey focused on defense. It was said that once the black tortoise hockey was released, ghosts and gods would find it difficult to hurt. Immortals and Buddhas would find it difficult to destroy. In a battle between cultivators, no matter how others attacked, they wouldn't be able to hurt you, but you could hurt others. The result of this battle could be imagined. Therefore, the existence that controlled the black tortoise hockey was the one that couldn't be offended the most, because you couldn't break his defense at all. If the 2 sides fought, the one who would suffer would definitely be you. Lin Feng's master, Master Turtle, was the black tortoise sacred beast. However, Lin Feng had been apprenticed for so long, and he had only seen this cheap master make a move once. It was the time when he killed His Holiness. After that, he had never seen Master Turtle make a move again. Lin Feng didn't know if his cheap master understood the black tortoise hockey. If he did, the Red World Fairy, who was known as the #1 expert in the 9 provinces' great world, might not even be a match for his cheap master. Lin Feng's spiritual will once again invaded the white tiger origin bone. This time, his spiritual will wasn't pulled into that ancient world. Instead, he obtained a cultivation chant. The white tiger aura, the Tao of aged metal, can kill 10,000 with a thought, can kill immortals and Buddhas. Lin Feng softly chanted this cultivation chant. A high-level hockey, like the white tiger hockey, could be cultivated postnatal. But the prerequisite was Lin Feng needed to refine the white bone origin bone into his body. The white tiger, holy origin bone, didn't reject Lin Feng's body. To cultivate the white tiger hockey, one needed to use the power of the white bone origin bone. If the white tiger origin bone rejected Lin Feng, then Lin Feng wouldn't be able to cultivate the white tiger hockey. I'm not from the white tiger clan, so I don't have the qualifications to cultivate the white tiger hockey. If I fuse the white tiger origin bone into my body will have the aura of the white tiger clan. This way, I can cultivate the white tiger hockey. I wonder if my understanding is correct. Lin Feng transmitted his voice to the demon lord. The demon lord said, "How can it be so simple? The white tiger origin bone will probably have some unknown effects, but the prerequisite is that the white tiger origin bone doesn't reject your body. If the white tiger origin bone rejects your body, even if you obtain the cultivation method of the white tiger hockey, you won't be able to cultivate it." Lin Feng nodded. The demon lord was right on this point. In the past, Lin Feng had obtained a saint's bone and had absorbed it. The sacred bone contained unimaginable power. It was one of Lin Feng's trump cards. Therefore, Lin Feng wasn't particularly unfamiliar with the refined bone body. After all, he had shocked everyone once before. Where should I refine the white tiger origin bone into my body? Lin Feng asked. The demon lord said, "Dragons follow the clouds, tigers follow the wind. If it's the dragon origin bone, I suggest you refine it into your spine to protect it. If it's the tiger origin bone, I suggest you refine it into your thighs." Thighs? Lin Feng was surprised. Chapter 2463. Lin Feng began to try to refine the white tiger origin bone into his leg. As long as he succeeded, he would be able to cultivate the white tiger aura. Lin Feng wanted to refine the white tiger origin bone into the place where the thigh bone and the tibia bone connected. This place happened to be where the knee was connected. There was a gap. He could refine the white tiger origin bone into it. Lin Feng took out a dagger, cut this part, and then stuffed the white tiger origin bone into it. Next, Lin Feng activated the immortal divine body, and his flesh and blood regenerated. The new blood that grew wrapped around the white tiger origin bone. Then Lin Feng began to activate the archaic dragonesque elephant art. Waves of archaic dragonesque elephant power surged into the white tiger origin bone. Under the effect of the archaic dragonesque elephant power, the white tiger origin bone gradually began to fuse with Lin Feng's bones. There's no rejection. Lin Feng couldn't help but reveal a look of joy. He thought that he would be able to refine the white tiger origin bone smoothly. But soon, Lin Feng realized that something was wrong. Waves of terrifying aura began to surge out of the white tiger origin bone. Bang! Lin Feng's body was directly sent flying by the terrifying power from the white tiger origin bone. Barf! Lin Feng couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood, and his face became as pale as paper. Puff! The white tiger origin bone continued to vibrate with terrifying power. That was a terrifying power. It directly pierced through Lin Feng's body. Countless wounds appeared on Lin Feng's body. It was as if he was riddled with holes. Lin Feng's face became extremely pale. The white tiger origin bone had caused great damage to his body. Now that the white tiger origin bone was in Lin Feng's body, if this continued, it would obviously have an extremely adverse effect on Lin Feng. It could even harm his life. Lin Feng also knew that the current situation was quite bad for him. He hurriedly circulated his immortal divine body to heal his injured body. At the same time, he began to circulate his supreme aura to suppress the terrifying power that was being released by the white tiger origin bone in his body. The reason why Lin Feng didn't circulate his epic dominance was because he was worried that if his epic dominance couldn't suppress the white tiger source bone, it would be too late to circulate his epic dominance. He might as well get it done once and for all and directly activate his supreme aura. The white tiger source bone was gradually suppressed by the supreme tyrannical aura. However, the white tiger source bone was rejecting Lin Feng's body. This made Lin Feng's expression very ugly. This was because the white tiger source bone was related to the white tiger haki, and Lin Feng was very eager to successfully cultivate the white tiger haki. This was cyan haki, such a terrifying haki. Once he successfully cultivated it, how much would his battle strength increase? However, now that the white tiger origin bone rejected his body, Lin Feng felt that he might not have the opportunity to cultivate the white tiger aura. Therefore, he was extremely depressed now. However, Lin Feng was not a person who gave up easily. He began to circulate the white tiger's murderous aura. All of the white tiger's murderous aura was poured into the white tiger source bone by Lin Feng. Lin Feng hoped that the white tiger source bone would gradually adapt to his body after sensing the white tiger's murderous aura and stop resisting his body. To Lin Feng's surprise, more and more white tiger's murderous aura poured into the white tiger source bone. The white tiger source bone's resistance to him was gradually weakening. Not long after, the white tiger source bone no longer resisted Lin Feng's body. Ha ha ha! Looks like I'm going to successfully refine the white tiger source bone. Lin Feng immediately laughed loudly. Time passed. 6 hours later, Lin Feng had finally managed to absorb the white tiger's original bone. The white tiger source bone and Lin Feng's bones fused together, becoming a part of him. The white tiger source bone was the same as the sacred bone that Lin Feng had refined previously. They both contained great power. Lin Feng could activate the white tiger source bone and use its power. I've finally succeeded in refining the white tiger source bone. I can now try to cultivate the white tiger aura. Lin Feng's face lit up with joy. Cultivating the white tiger aura was not an easy task. Lin Feng knew this very well. However, Lin Feng had enough patience and confidence to successfully cultivate the white tiger aura. Deep into the night, Lin Feng cooked a sumptuous meal. Bibi and Dragon Rabbit were drowsy after eating. The two of them had been playing crazily during this period, so they were very tired and had been sleeping for the past few days. However, Lil Tian was full of energy. Lin Feng sent Bibi and Dragon Rabbit into the mountain river ring to rest while Lil Tian and Lin Feng sat together and chatted. Lil Tian was still young, so many of her questions were amusing. Having such a small child by his side was quite delightful. Of course, the most important thing was that Lil Tian's cultivation was very strong. If he encountered any danger that he could not deal with, he could work with Lil Tian. With Lil Tian around, everything could be easily solved. The depths of the island were very dangerous. Many powerful beasts were active here. Now that the sweet sound flower had matured, many powerful beasts had entered the depths of the island to search for it. Therefore, it was common to see cultivators fighting beasts in the depths of the island. There were not many sweet sound flowers in the depths of the island. Moreover, the places where the sweet sound flowers grew were often densely covered with terrifying restrictions. Therefore, it was very difficult to harvest them. Lin Feng and Lil Tian collected a total of 12 sweet sound flowers. Eat. Lil Tian knew that the sweet sound flower could increase the power of one's soul. She held a sweet sound flower in her hand and wanted to eat it directly. However, when she saw the thorny sweet sound flower, she could not bring herself to eat it. Lil Tian pouted. When Lin Feng saw that, he couldn't help but laugh. We can take the sweet sound flower and exchange it for pills, Lin Feng said. Lil Tian nodded and handed the sweet sound lake in her hand to Lin Feng. More and more cultivators entered the sweet sound island in search of the sweet sound flower. Lin Feng and Lil Tian searched for a few more days, but did not find any. There were very few sweet sound flowers in the first place. Many of them had already been taken. Perhaps there were some more secluded places like the Sweet Sound Lake. However, it would be very difficult to find them. Lin Feng planned to leave the Sweet Sound Lake. Although 12 sweet sound flowers were not a lot, it was a good harvest for other cultivators. After leaving, Lin Feng and Lil Tian flew in the direction of the 9 states' immortal kingdom. Along the way, Lin Feng and Lil Tian were attacked by countless soul-splitting birds. These soul-splitting birds formed flocks. It was said that even the smallest flock had tens of millions of soul-splitting birds gathered together. Chapter 2464. The densely packed, soul-splitting birds attacked Lin Feng and little Tian. Lin Feng discovered that there were simply too many of these social creatures in the 9 continents paradise. For example, they had encountered the skeletal lizards and the demonic sonar bugs. Now, there was a flock of soul-splitting birds. This was especially true for this flock of soul-splitting birds. There were simply too many of them. Even ants could bite an elephant to death, let alone so many soul-splitting birds. Thus, the current situation was extremely bad for Lin Feng and little Tian. Lin Feng summoned the purple gold heavenly ball to protect him and little Tian. However, as time passed, the defensive barrier created by the purple gold heavenly ball was gradually being destroyed. Lin Feng's expression turned grave. The current situation was extremely bad. It would not be easy to kill their way out of this endless flock of soul-splitting birds. "Uncle Lin, do you hear that sound?" Suddenly, little Tian Tian said. "Sound? What sound?" Uncle did not hear it. Lin Feng said. Little Tian Tian heard it. "It seems like someone is playing a flute." Little Tian Tian said. "Playing a flute?" Lin Feng was shocked. As far as the eye could see, there were only soul-splitting birds everywhere. There was no one here at all. Could someone be playing a flute? Did little Tian Tian hear wrongly? Or did he not hear it? Lin Feng listened carefully. He could faintly hear the sound of a flute. There really is the sound of a flute. It seems to be coming from the northwest. Lin Feng said in shock. Little Tian Tian pointed in a certain direction. She was also pointing in the northwest. However, the little girl was too young and did not know how to tell directions. She did not know how to express herself verbally. Thus, she could only express herself physically. Could someone be controlling the soul-splitting birds? Lin Feng thought of a possibility. Then, his face filled with shock. This was too inconceivable. It was too shocking. It was too inconceivable. How could such a large flock of soul-splitting birds be controlled by someone? However, there were indeed many beast-controlling sects in this world. Those sects knew how to control all kinds of beasts. However, the cultivators of those sects were able to control some herds of beasts and insects, but only on a small scale. The number of soul-cleaving birds was simply too great. There were probably hundreds of millions of them. It was simply inconceivable that it could be controlled by someone. Lin Feng and little Tian Tian weaved through the flock of soul-splitting birds. Very quickly, they saw a huge soul-splitting bird. That God-splitting bird was actually over 10 meters long, and its entire body was golden. On the God-splitting bird's body, there was also a woman sitting there. At this moment, the woman was playing a flute. The woman was wearing clothes made of animal skin. Looking at the way they dressed, they looked very wild. This was because her clothes only covered a few important parts of her body. For example, the clothes on her upper body only covered her breasts. The clothes on the lower half of her body covered her buttocks. Lin Feng really wanted to ask Beauty, "Aren't you cold-dressed like this?" However, he would probably be beaten up by that woman, right? "Wow, it's a beautiful big sister," little Tian Tian said. Lin Feng rolled his eyes and said, "What beautiful big sister! She's the one who controlled the flock of soul-splitting birds to attack us. Then little Tian Tian doesn't like her anymore." Little Tian Tian said, "Beauty, we have no enmity between us in the past. If you let us go now, why don't we make a new friend?" Lin Feng said in a low voice. The woman chuckled and said, "You can be considered to have some ability since you're still alive after being trapped by the Godren birds for such a long time. Now, if you submit to this princess and become this princess' male slave, then this princess will spare your life." Lin Feng said, "Princess? Are you the princess of the 9 provinces, Immortal Kingdom? I know Zhao Lin, do you know her? Are you sisters? However, there's a huge difference in your dressing style. How about you let us go today for Zhao Lin Er's sake?" Humph! Unexpectedly, the woman snorted and said, "Zhao Lin is my mortal enemy. Don't you know that?" "Guya? You're called Guya? What a nice name. It's as beautiful as you." Lin Feng said. This bold and unrestrained woman was indeed a top-notch woman. Whether it was her figure or her face, they could all be considered top-notch. She was a rare beauty in the human world. "Glib tongue. Since you're Zhao Lin Er's friend, I can't let you live," Guya said coldly. She was about to give the order to attack Lin Feng and little Tian Tian. Lin Feng realized that Guya seemed to have a bad relationship with Zhao Lin. They were not sisters at all. Lin Feng had heard that there was a 9 provinces immortal kingdom in the 9 provinces immortal realm. That was why Guya had said that she was a princess. He had mistakenly thought that Guya was a princess of the 9 provinces immortal kingdom. However, it seemed like that wasn't the case. Lin Feng had misunderstood, who said that one had to establish a country to become a princess. For example, the chiefs of some ancient tribes liked to give themselves some resounding titles. Perhaps Guya's father was the chief of some tribe and called himself an emperor. Guya could naturally be called a princess, said Lin Feng hastily. Beauty, it's a misunderstanding. I didn't tell you the truth. Actually, I've only met Zhao Lin Air once. We're not friends, we're just acquaintances. I thought you and Zhao Lin Air were sisters, so I lied. Now, I'll tell you the truth. I don't like that woman either. She goes out with hundreds of people. She looks like a nouveau riche. I despise people like that the most. All right, I'll give you one last chance. Swear to be my male slave, or choose to die. Choose one of these 2 paths. Guya said, this woman had a kind of exotic charm, like a wild Persian cat, as if she needed a man to conquer her. That kind of high and mighty gaze made Lin Feng feel very uncomfortable. He wanted nothing more than to capture her and teach her a good lesson. Lin Feng said, you want me to be your male slave? I also want you to be my female slave. This young master doesn't mind having a female slave like you by my side. What did you say? Guya looked at Lin Feng in disbelief. Right now, Lin Feng's situation could be said to be extremely dangerous. If she gave the order, this guy would die in the Yellow Springs. In such a situation, shouldn't Lin Feng bow and scrape? Even if he didn't want to be her male slave, he should at least try to negotiate, right? But Lin Feng didn't do that. Instead, he arrogantly wanted to take her as his female slave. Chapter 2465. Guya looked at Lin Feng angrily and said, do you know what you're saying? Do you know how stupid your actions are? Do you know the price of infuriating me? The furious Guya asked Lin Feng 3 questions in a row. Her charming eyes glared at Lin Feng fiercely. Guya was a very proud woman. Of course, she had the right to be proud. Guya's cultivation was very powerful. In addition, she could control the soul-splitting birds. No cultivator of the younger generation dared to provoke her. Even cultivators of the older generation had to take a detour when they saw her. Lin Feng was surrounded by the soul-splitting birds, yet he was still so arrogant. This made Guya feel that Lin Feng was looking down on her. Guya was not someone with a good temper. She was very beautiful. However, being beautiful had nothing to do with having a good temper. Guya belonged to the type of people who were high and mighty. She could take someone's life at the slightest disagreement. How could such a person, who was decisive and vicious, have a good temper? Lin Feng smiled at Guya and said, you're so beautiful, but your temper is a little bad. However, if I train you well for a while, your temper should improve. Then you'll definitely become an obedient servant girl. You are courting death, Guya screamed in anger. Someone actually dared to provoke her and look down on her like this. Guya could not tolerate this. Now, Guya only had one thought. She wanted to capture this detestable person in front of her. Then she would ruthlessly torture him. At that time, she would watch him kneel in front of her and beg her to take him as her slave. Guya picked up her flute and began to play it, controlling the soul-splitting birds to attack Lin Feng. Lin Feng was not very far from Guya now. The reason why Lin Feng had fallen out with Guya was because he was very close to her. If he and little Tian Tian attacked Guya, they would most likely be able to suppress her. Guya was indeed able to control a huge flock of God-splitting birds. However, the biggest mistake Guya had made was that she shouldn't have allowed him to find her. Lin Feng believed that Guya must have seen him and little Tian Tian looking for her. But Guya didn't care about that at all, as far as she was concerned. So what if she was found? In her eyes, Lin Feng and Xiao Tian Tian couldn't do anything. "Little girl, do it," Lin Feng said. Boom. Then he unleashed his epic dominance. Epical Haki released a powerful deterrent force. It directly enveloped the surrounding god-splitting birds that were flying over. The densely packed soul-splitting birds were sent flying by Ji Jie's domineering aura. Lin Feng and Xiao Tian Tian rushed towards Guya. Guya clearly hadn't expected Lin Feng and little Tian Tian to be able to get close to her so quickly. She was slightly surprised, but then she sneered. Guya took out a small golden bell. The small golden bell flew out as fast as lightning. The small golden bell sucked Lin Feng and little Tian Tian into it. Then the small golden bell quickly shrank and flew towards Guya. "You dare to jump around in front of me with such a weak cultivation." Guya couldn't help but snort. Bang, bang, bang. At that moment, a series of muffled sounds rang out from the small golden bell. Inside the small golden bell, little Tian Tian waved her little fists and punched the small golden bell again and again. Little Tian Tian's strength was too terrifying. She didn't rely on her physical strength. Instead, there was an earth-shattering magic power within her body. Lin Feng didn't know how such boundless magic power had appeared in little Tian Tian's body. However, little Tian Tian was able to easily use such powerful magic power. It was simply unbelievable. Even Lin Feng wasn't sure if he could use such powerful magic power. Little Tian Tian's origins were simply too mysterious. Guya's treasure was able to instantly suck Lin Feng and little Tian Tian into it. It was obvious how powerful this treasure was. However, under little Tian Tian's attacks, the treasure's luster had dimmed. Not long after, little Tian Tian's attacks caused the treasure to lose a great deal of its divine nature. Lin Feng and little Tian Tian flew out of the small golden bell. This treasure would probably be unusable for a while. "Little Tian Tian hates you." After flying out, little Tian Tian snorted and threw a punch at Guya. Lin Feng used the 8 god sealing seals to seal Guya. Although he didn't want to admit it, Lin Feng knew that there was still a huge gap between his cultivation and little Tian Tian's. Therefore, when Lin Feng and little Tian Tian worked together, little Tian Tian was usually the main attacker. Lin Feng supported her from the side. They worked together very well. This time it was the same. Guya had thought that Lin Feng and little Tian Tian wouldn't be able to escape this time. Who would have thought that little Tian Tian would be so ferocious that she could break the small golden bell with her tender fists? It was too late for Guya to retreat, but she didn't want to fight little Tian Tian and Lin Feng head-on. Guya waved her right hand, and a Milky Way world appeared between her, Lin Feng, and little Tian Tian. This divine ability was called the Milky Way. With a light stroke, a Milky Way would appear between heaven and earth. It seemed to be very close. When one wanted to cross this distance, it was as if they were separated by a Milky Way world. Guya's divine ability was really powerful. If Lin Feng were to break this divine ability of hers, even Lin Feng might not be able to do so. However, little Tian Tian was too powerful. Little Tian Tian could crush any cultivator of the younger generation, and even any cultivator of the older generation. Lin Feng had once thought that unless the emperor himself came, or else, no one was a match for little Tian Tian. Guya was no exception. Little Tian Tian directly waved her tender fists and smashed them directly at the Milky Way world that Guya had condensed. Bang! The Milky Way world collapsed. Little Tian Tian's incomparably violent punch formed a powerful fist intent and directly sent Guya and the giant god-splitting bird she was sitting on flying. Guya's heart was filled with shock. Was this the strength that a 5 or 6-year-old girl should have? Was she dreaming? Wasn't this little girl's cultivation too abnormal? How could she be so powerful? All kinds of thoughts flashed through her mind, but Guya's movements didn't slow down at all. She quickly retreated, wanting to quickly increase the distance between them. However, at this moment, Lin Feng had already arrived beside Guya. He used the 8 divine seals to condense dense array patterns. Those array patterns wrapped around Guya's body. They directly sealed all the magic power in Guya's body. Chapter 2466. Guya had never imagined that she would be sealed by Lin Feng. She was in control of the God-Splitter birds, and she had a powerful cultivation. Now that she had fallen into Lin Feng's hands, Guya didn't even dare to imagine what the consequences would be. In Guya's opinion, Lin Feng was definitely not a kind person. He might really do something beastly to her. Guya was extremely confident in her looks. In Guya's eyes, Lin Feng was the type of person who was a pervert. Tisk tsk. Now that you're in my hands, how do you think I should deal with you? Lin Feng reached out and grabbed Guya's waist, preventing her from falling. Screech! The God-Splitter Bird King was psychic. When it saw that Guya had been captured, it immediately let out a series of ear-piercing screeches, seemingly threatening Lin Feng, telling him to release Guya. Otherwise, he would have to bear the consequences. Lin Feng sneered. Hurry up and leave with the God-Splitter birds. Otherwise, do you believe that I won't destroy you? The God-Splitter Bird King's pupils constricted when it heard Lin Feng's words. Clearly, it was very afraid of this matter. However, it didn't leave. Lin Feng looked at Guya and said, I'll have to trouble you to let the God-Splitter Bird King lead the God-Splitter birds away. I believe that you don't want to see the God-Splitter Bird King die here, right? Are you threatening me? Guya gnashed her teeth as she looked at Lin Feng. She wanted nothing more than to bite Lin Feng to death. However, she couldn't do that. She was now Lin Feng's prisoner. Even though she was gnashing her teeth, she could only endure it for now. I'm not threatening you. I'm giving you a chance. If you don't know what's good for you, I don't mind killing this annoying bird. Lin Feng said calmly. Humph. Guya snorted. Guya grunted coldly, and then she gazed at the Godrend Bird King and said, Take the Godrend birds and leave for now. The soul-splitting Bird King let out several cries. It looked rather anxious, clearly communicating with Guya about something. However, Lin Feng couldn't understand what it was trying to say. Guya also used a strange voice to communicate with the soul-splitting bird monarch. They were obviously doing this on purpose, not wanting Lin Feng to know what they were talking about. Lin Feng was too lazy to care about this. In the end, the soul-splitting Bird King chose to lead its flock away. Before leaving, the soul-splitting bird monarch said to Lin Feng, If you dare harm Ya, I will not let you off. Naturally, it wasn't difficult for the soul-splitting bird monarch to speak the human language. For a powerful creature like the soul-splitting bird monarch, it wasn't difficult at all. Speaking was a very simple matter. What surprised Lin Feng was that the soul-splitting bird monarch's voice was actually female. Clearly, it was a female soul-splitting bird monarch. Lin Feng smiled and said, Don't worry. I can't bear to harm Guya. I can't wait to dote on her. How could I possibly harm her? Who cares about your doting? You're shameless. Guya couldn't help but curse. Lin Feng smiled and said, Look at what you're saying. I don't dote on you. I dote on you. As he spoke, he tightened his arms around Guya's waist. Guya's soft body pressed tightly against Lin Feng's, causing her to gnash her teeth in anger. the soul-splitting bird monarch didn't stay any longer. It led its flock away. Soon, only Lin Feng, Guya, and little Tian Tian were left. "What will it take for you to let me go?" Guya asked in a low voice. After a brief moment of panic, Guya had become much calmer. Guya knew this very well. There was no point in being anxious. At a time like this, it was even more important to calm down. Guya believed that there was nothing in this world that couldn't be negotiated. "My goal is very simple. I want to properly train you and make you my personal maid," Lin Feng said with a smile. "I can give you a lot of treasures. I can even tell you the locations of several secret zones and grotto mansions. Those secret zones and grotto mansions might contain boundless wealth. As long as you let me go, I can tell you everything. What do you think of this deal?" Lin Feng said calmly, "Treasures, wealth, I have plenty of them. Compared to those things, I prefer having a beautiful personal maid by my side." You. Guya started to speak. Guya was speechless. She realized that Lin Feng didn't listen to her at all. Moreover, Lin Feng clearly wanted to take her as his personal maid. Guya didn't even dare to imagine such a thing. "Enough with your mumbling. From now on, you are officially my maid for 3 months. During these 3 months, you must serve me well. If you serve me well, you will regain your freedom. Otherwise, I will have no choice but to keep you by my side and train you." Lin Feng said with a smile, You shameless bastard. How can you be considered a hero when you bully a little girl?" Guya immediately shouted. Lin Feng pursed his lips and said, "If I was a shameless bastard, do you think you can still stand here and talk to me?" Guya snorted coldly, but she didn't refute Lin Feng. Lin Feng continued, "Now you know you are a little girl? You didn't act like a little woman before, but from now on, you have to serve me honestly. You have no other choice." Guya glared fiercely at Lin Feng. She also knew that she had no other choice. 3 months it is. This princess will endure it. When this princess is free, see how this princess will deal with you. Guya viciously thought to herself. Her idea was quite good. Guya said, "All right, I will serve you for 3 months." "That's a good girl." Lin Feng smiled. The 9 provinces' immortal empire was extremely large. The imperial capital of the 9 provinces' immortal empire was called the 9 provinces' immortal capital. This was the largest ancient city in the 9 provinces' immortal territory, and it was also the capital of the 9 provinces' immortal empire. Thus, this place was extremely lively, and it was practically a sea of people. Lin Feng, Xiao Tian Tian, and Guya arrived at the 9 provinces' immortal capital. Guya's previous outfit was simply too provocative. If she came to the 9 provinces' immortal capital dressed like that, who knew how many people would come to watch? Thus, Lin Feng had Guya change into a long dress to cover her exposed body. After entering the 9 provinces' immortal capital, Lin Feng carried Xiao Tian Tian and went with Guya to find a place to stay. Chapter 2467. There were many high-class inns in the 9 continents' immortal capital, and the cultivators here knew how to enjoy themselves. Lin Feng rented a courtyard in the first-grade restaurant, where birds were chirping and flowers were fragrant, and the environment was elegant and pleasant. There were only 9 courtyards in the courtyard, and these courtyards were scattered in picturesque disorder, implying the great Tao of heaven and earth. Moreover, each courtyard was filled with energy, and it was really the best place for cultivation. In the evening, Lin Feng prepared a barbecue party in the courtyard. As a foodie, enjoying delicious food was a must every day. The inn had a takeout service, and Lin Feng also ordered a variety of delicacies. However, Guya was not interested in these delicacies. She was originally a person of the 9 continents' immortal realm. so she was naturally very familiar with the various delicacies of the 9 continents' immortal realm. She had a special liking for Lin Feng's barbecue, and she simply devoured Lin Feng's barbecue like a whirlwind sweeping away the clouds. Uncle Lin, these things are not delicious. Little Tian Tian likes to eat the delicacies made by Uncle Lin. Little Tian Tian commented on the table of delicacies that Lin Feng had ordered. Next time, Uncle will make a lot of delicious food for you. Lin Feng rubbed Little Tian Tian's head and said, "Okay." Little Tian Tian nodded heavily. Guya muttered while eating, "I didn't know that you actually knew how to cook, and the barbecue you made was SOSO passable." Lin Feng said, "Someone ate 90% of the barbecue alone, and you actually described it as passable. This young master has really broadened my horizons today." Guya's pretty face blushed, and she lightly snorted. After eating and drinking to her heart's content, little Tian Tian quickly fell asleep. Only Guya and Lin Feng were left sitting in the courtyard, drinking tea. Guya had supreme-grade spiritual tea here, and it was really very pleasant to brew a pot of it. Other outsiders, after entering the 9 continents' immortal realm, are all looking for opportunities everywhere, but you actually came to the 9 continents' immortal realm to enjoy life. What a freak. Guya couldn't help but mutter. Lin Feng pulled Guya up and embraced her slender waist. Guya sat in Lin Feng's embrace. Lin Feng said, "How can you speak to your master like that? You want master to punish you? You let me go." Guya's pretty face flushed pink, and she couldn't help but glare fiercely at Lin Feng. She had always kept herself clean. Before she met Lin Feng, she had never had any physical contact with a man. Lin Feng smiled and said, "A maidservant should act like a maidservant. As a maidservant, it is natural for her to be close to her master." Guya looked like she wanted nothing more than to stomp Lin Feng to death. Why was it that whenever Lin Feng said something, he could turn black into white? Lin Feng naturally just wanted to tease Guya. Seeing Guya gnashing her teeth, Lin Feng felt that it was very interesting. The next day, Lin Feng went out with Xiao Tian Tian and Guya. He planned to go to the auction house to sell his sweet soundflowers. Previously, Lin Feng and Xiao Tian Tian had obtained a total of 12 sweet soundflowers. These sweet soundflowers could be refined directly, but it would be a waste to do so. The effects would definitely not be as good as the sweet sound pills. Lin Feng planned to exchange the sweet soundflowers for sweet sound pills. Then, he would use the sweet sound pills to increase his soul power. Guya was quite familiar with the Jojo Immortals. She brought Lin Feng to the auction house. The auction house had the backing of the imperial family, and its business was very good. From the outside, the auction house looked like a huge crystal bird's nest. It was magnificent, and the craftsmanship was superb. The interior was divided into 7 levels. The first level was the main hall. There were all kinds of display booths. If one wanted to buy something, they could find it there. In addition to the display booths, there were also counters to buy all kinds of treasures. The auction house was a rather special place. Not only did it sell things, but it also bought all kinds of rare treasures. Some of the top-notch treasures would be put up for auction. Of course, if one didn't want to sell rare treasures to the auction house but wanted to earn a lot of money, they could sell them to the auction house. However, after the auction house would take a 30% commission. Now, the auction house had set up a counter to buy sweet soundflowers. After all, during this period of time, many cultivators had gone to look for the sweet soundflowers. Therefore, the auction house wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to buy the sweet soundflowers. Lin Feng saw a few cultivators talking to an old man behind the counter from afar. They were probably cultivators who wanted to sell the sweet soundflowers. They were now bargaining. How many sweet sound pills can this sweet sound flower be exchanged for? Lin Feng looked at Guya and asked. Guya lived in the Jojo immortal realm, so she was naturally very familiar with the sweet sound pills. Therefore, Lin Feng asked this question. He needed to find out about the market price first, and then have a good talk with the auction house. Usually it's 2 pills. Guya said, "How many sweet sound flowers do you need to refine a cauldron of pills?" How many sweet sound pills can be refined from a cauldron of pills? Lin Feng asked. A sweet sound flower is the main ingredient, and other supplementary ingredients are needed to refine a cauldron of pills. It can refine around 12 to 15 pills. Guya said, "This auction house is really black-hearted." Lin Feng muttered. Guya said, "Who asked the imperial family of the Jojo immortal kingdom to have the method to refine the sweet sound pill? If there was a second power that knew how to refine the sweet sound pill, the price wouldn't be so ridiculous. Even if you add in the supplementary ingredients and the cost of labor, it's reasonable that a sweet sound flower can be exchanged for 7 or 8 sweet sound pills. The imperial family of the Jojo immortal kingdom will also make a profit. The sweet sound pill is very precious. It only ripens once every 3,000 years, and there are probably only a few dozen sweet sound flowers each time. Therefore, the sweet sound flower is too rare, so the imperial family of the Jojo immortal kingdom will naturally think of ways to lower the price. There are too many monks and too little gruel, so they must be eyeing the sweet sound pill." Lin Feng said. At this time, a few cultivators seemed to have reached an agreement with the old man. Then, a maid came out and led the cultivators upstairs. Lin Feng carried Xiao Tiantian and walked over with Guya. "Young master, are you selling sweet sound flowers?" the old man asked with a smile. "Of course, and I'm selling quite a few." Lin Feng smiled. The old man's eyes lit up. It was difficult to purchase sweet sound flowers every time because all the major powers were buying them. Although some of the major powers couldn't refine the sweet sound pill, they could use the sweet sound flower to refine other pills. Therefore, it was already a good harvest for the auction house to be able to purchase 30 or 40 sweet sound flowers. If the cultivators in charge of purchasing sweet sound flowers could exceed the quota, they would be rewarded handsomely. "How many sweet sound flowers do you have, young master?" the old man asked. 12. Lin Feng smiled. The old man was pleasantly surprised when he heard that Lin Feng had 12 sweet sound flowers. Chapter 2468. It wasn't easy to obtain a sweet sound flower. A single stalk of sweet sound flower was extremely valuable, and Lin Feng actually had 12 stalks of sweet sound flowers. This was a huge business deal. "Ha, young master, why don't we talk in the VIP lounge upstairs?" The old man was very knowledgeable and reacted quickly. He immediately smiled and invited Lin Feng upstairs for a discussion. "All right." Lin Feng nodded. In the VIP lounge on the second floor, a maid served tea as the host and the guest took their seats. Xiao Tiantian was playing in the lounge. Guya looked at Xiao Tiantian from the side. "I am Liang Wandao. How should I address you, young master?" the old man asked with a smile. "Lin Feng. So it's Lin Gongzi. My apologies for not recognizing you." Liang Wandao cupped his fists with a smile. Lin Feng replied politely. Then Lin Feng picked up his teacup and sipped the spirit tea without saying anything else. Doing business was a competition of patience. Right now, whoever spoke first would be the weaker party. They would definitely be at a disadvantage in the negotiation later on. With the resources in his hands, Lin Feng didn't need to worry about not being able to sell the sweet sound flowers. The one who was truly worried was Liang Wandao. He definitely wanted to complete this huge deal. Seeing Lin Feng remain silent, Liang Wandao couldn't help but mutter inwardly, "What a sly fox." Liang Wandao worked in the auction house all year round and had seen all kinds of people. Therefore, he could guess what Lin Feng was thinking. He also knew what Lin Feng wanted. He wanted to exchange for more sweet sound pills. It wasn't good for both sides to just sit there and do nothing. Liang Wandao said, "Lin Gongzi is selling 12 stalks of sweet sound flowers in one go. Our auction house will give Lin Gongzi a satisfactory price." Lin Feng smiled and said, "I wonder what kind of price Elder Liang will give me?" Liang Wandao said, "Other people who come to the auction house to sell sweet sound flowers usually get 2 sweet sound pills per stalk. However, I'm fated with you. How about this? Young Master's 12 stalks of sweet sound flowers can be sold for a total of 30 sweet sound pills. This price is already very sincere," said Lin Feng, while smiling. "I've heard that a cauldron can produce 12 to 15 sweet sound pills. 12 sweet sound flowers can produce between 144 sweet sound pills and 180 sweet sound pills. If you can only get 30 sweet sound pills, then it's not a good deal, and we don't need to talk about it anymore," said Lin Feng, while smiling. Liang Wandao hurriedly said, "Lin Gongzi, don't jump to conclusions so quickly. It seems that Lin Gongzi has already done a comprehensive understanding of the sweet sound flower before coming here. Lin Gongzi should also know that refining the sweet sound pill requires a lot of precious auxiliary materials. These are also costs." Guya smiled and said, "How precious can some auxiliary materials be? Elder Liang, don't deceive us." Liang Wandao's eyes narrowed slightly. He looked at Guya and said, "Miss, why do you say that? What this elder said is the truth. Let's not talk about the value of these auxiliary materials. This pill formula is in the hands of the royal family of the 9 continents. Our auction house is backed by the royal family of the 9 continents. You can't buy sweet sound pills anywhere else except here. If you want sweet sound pills, you can only buy them from us. Just based on this point, this old man's price is already very sincere." Liang Wandao's words were actually very clear. If you want sweet sound pills to increase your cultivation, you can only buy them from us. You can't buy them anywhere else. Therefore, the sweet sound flower can only be sold to us. We have the final say in the price, not the seller. Over the years, many cultivators who sold sweet sound flowers had haggled over the price, but in the end, they still had to accept the price given by the auction house. This was where the confidence of the auction house came from. Lin Feng said indifferently, "I don't think I said that I definitely need sweet sound pills. There are many heavenly treasures or pills that can increase one's soul force. I can use other things to replace the sweet sound pill. I heard that several other powers are also buying sweet sound flowers. I can use these sweet sound flowers to directly trade with them." After saying this, Lin Feng stood up and prepared to leave. Liang Wandao was slightly surprised. He didn't think that Lin Feng's attitude would be so resolute. Moreover, looking at Lin Feng's expression, he didn't seem to be lying. Lin Feng really wanted to leave. Now, it was Liang Wandao's turn to be anxious. If he couldn't complete such a huge business deal, and the higher-ups found out, he would be punished. "Lin Gongzi, please wait. If you're not satisfied with the price, we can continue the discussion," Liang Wandao hurriedly said. Lin Feng sat back down and said, "I have many choices, but whether or not this deal can be completed depends on your sincerity. 35 sweet sound pills. That's my limit," Liang Wandao said. Lin Feng smiled and said, "That's not enough. It's still a little far from my goal." "Lin Gongzi, you're too greedy," Liang Wandao said. Lin Feng said, "I have the resources and you need them. We're both taking what we need. How can I be greedy?" Liang Wandao asked. How many sweet sound pills do you want, Lin Gongzi? 60. That's my bottom line. Lin Feng said. That price is absolutely impossible. Liang Wandao said. The auction house has never done such a business before. Lin Feng smiled and said, Elder Liang, you can apply to the higher-ups. Perhaps they'll agree? Liang Wandao's expression changed. He said, All right, Lin Gongzi, wait here for a moment. I'll be right back. Thank you, Elder Liang. Lin Feng nodded. Liang Wandao quickly left. After Liang Wandao left, Guya said unhappily, It's always others who scam the auction house. When it's your turn, it's you who scams the auction house. 60 sweet sound pills? Are you trying to rob us? The imperial family of 9 provinces, as well as some other major powers, are all eyeing the pills covetously. They don't even have enough for themselves. You think they'll agree? Lin Feng said. I was just about to ask for 80, but after thinking about it, I don't think they'll agree. I reckon that 60 is their limit. If they don't agree, we'll just leave. At most, we'll just eat these sweet sound flowers to cultivate. Eating them directly is a waste of resources. Guya said speechlessly. Chapter 2469. Lin Gongzi, this is the president of our auction house. Zhao Shuya. Liang Wandao introduced her to Lin Feng. Lin Feng knew that the royal family of the 9 continents' immortal kingdom was surnamed Zhao. Since this woman was called Zhao Shuya, she should be a relative of the royal family of the 9 continents' immortal kingdom. The woman in front of him was truly enchanting. She was a peerless beauty herself. Moreover, she had a charming and mature temperament that made people infatuated with her. This was something that women with little experience couldn't compare to. Lin Gongzi, Shuya greets you here. Zhao Shuya smiled slightly, her charm moving. If it was any other man, they would probably be stunned by her beauty. However, Lin Feng had seen too many peerless beauties before, and his new maidservant, Guya, was one of them. Thus, he acted as if nothing had happened. Fairy is too courteous. Lin Feng smiled. Zhao Shuya giggled and said, Lin Gongzi really knows how to talk. I'm not a fairy. Zhao Shuya then gestured for Lin Feng to sit down. Zhao Shuya said, I've already heard Lin Gongzi's request from Elder Liang. It's not that we can't agree to this request, but we have a condition. What condition? Lin Feng narrowed his eyes and looked at Zhao Shuya. In a few days, there will be an auction. Lin Gongzi needs to take out a deathly still fruit, and this deathly still fruit will become one of the promotional items for our auction house. Zhao Shuya said. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly. He didn't think that Zhao Shuya would know that he had a deathly still fruit. Zhao Shuya said, Lin Gongzi, please don't misunderstand. Our auction house has no ill intentions towards Lin Gongzi. The reason we know that Lin Gongzi has a deathly still fruit is because a cultivator called Emperor Azure Bowl came to our 9 continents immortal capital a while ago and sold this information to the Mercenary Association. Our auction house also received this information, and I'm sure that many people are looking for Lin Gongzi. Some of them might have bad intentions, while some of them might sincerely want to make a deal with Lin Gongzi. Our auction house belongs to the latter group. We want to make a deal with Lin Gongzi. When the time comes, our auction house will help us bid a high price for Lin Gongzi. At the same time, we can also use the deathly still fruit to attract even more people. Our auction house, also, we can use the deathly still fruit to sell to the Mercenary Association. Our auction house also received the news auction house. Many people's auction house is. All right, I can promise you. But where is this Azure Bull Emperor? Do you know where he is? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. He had already guessed who this Emperor Azure Bull was. It was definitely that bastard Big Azure Bull. That guy was full of lies. He said that he would never go to the 9 continents' immortal kingdom, that he wanted to go to places where cultivators gathered the most, and so on. That bastard sold his information in exchange for a lot of benefits. As for himself, he would encounter a lot of trouble. It wasn't hard to imagine that many people would come looking for him soon. Just as Zhao Shuya said, some people might sincerely want to make a deal with him in exchange for the deathly still fruit, while others wanted to kill him and steal his treasures. He came to the 9 continents' immortal capital to look for opportunities. How could he have the time to fight with a group of people? This damned Azure Bull. The next time I see it, I'll kill it, skin it, and then stew it into a pot of beef soup. Lin Feng couldn't help but think viciously in his heart. Zhao Shuya said, this Emperor Azure Bull has already left the 9 continents' immortal capital. As for where he went, we don't know. Lin Feng nodded. It seemed that the idea of killing the Azure Bull to make beef soup would have to be put aside for now. Zhao Shuya took out a porcelain bottle and said, there are 60 Wonder Sound pills in here. Lin Gongzi, take a look. Lin Feng said, there's no need to look. I trust you on this. Lin Feng took out 12 Wonder Sound flowers and a deathly still fruit. Then he said, this is what you need. Zhao Shuya smiled when she saw Lin Feng take out the Wonder Sound flower and deathly still fruit. After putting them away, she took out an agreement and handed it to Lin Feng. Zhao Shuya said, this is the agreement for the auction of the deathly still fruit. After the auction, according to the rules, the auction house will take 30% of the reward as commission. If there are no problems, we can sign it. Lin Feng looked at it and found that there were no problems, so he signed his name. Zhao Shuya said, the auction will be held in 7 days. If you're interested, you can come and participate. Perhaps you'll find something you need. Lin Feng said, all right, I'll definitely come. After a slight pause, Lin Feng said, right, I need a batch of materials. I wonder if the auction house can help me gather them. Lin Feng took out a piece of paper. The materials written on it were the materials needed to refine the white tiger clone. Zhao Shuya glanced at it and said, most of the materials are easy to gather, but the earth crystal, flame immortal stone, and immortal spirit wood are extremely rare. I'm afraid they won't be easy to find. Those 3 materials were indeed very rare. Lin Feng said, I'll trouble you to help me look around. If you can find them, I'll buy them no matter the price. All right, I'll do my best to help you. Zhao Shuya said. After chatting for a while longer, Lin Feng bid farewell and left. After leaving the auction house, Lin Feng didn't stay outside for long. He returned to his residence with Xiao Tiantian and Gu Ya. Lin Feng planned to refine the wonder pill to increase his soul force. Little girl, eat these pills. Lin Feng took out 30 wonder pills and gave them to Xiao Tiantian. Xiao Tiantian ate them as if they were jelly beans, and she quickly finished them all. Uncle Lin, Xiao Tiantian is sleepy. Xiao Tiantian yawned. The little girl would absorb the wonder pill's medicinal energy in her sleep. Lin Feng sent Xiao Tiantian into his mountain river ring. It would be safer that way. After that, Lin Feng told Gu Ya that he was going into seclusion. Gu Ya's magic energy had been sealed by Lin Feng. Thus, Lin Feng wasn't worried that she would escape. Gu Ya couldn't wait for Lin Feng to go into seclusion. It would be best if he went into seclusion for 3 months. When he came out, she would regain her freedom. Lin Feng began his seclusion. He swallowed all 30 Wonder Sound pills. Then Lin Feng began to circulate the archaic dragon-esque elephant art. The medicinal energy of the wonder pills was being refined bit by bit. Lin Feng's soul force was now at first layer quasi-emperor realm. After refining the 30 wonder pills, his soul force reached third layer quasi-emperor realm. Lin Feng was very happy that his soul force increased by 2 layers. Unfortunately, there was a limit to the number of wonder pills. If he had enough, his soul force could reach 99-layer quasi-emperor realm. However, Lin Feng was very satisfied that he could increase his soul force by 2 layers at once. On the second day after he came out of seclusion, someone came to deliver a letter to Lin Feng. This letter was actually sent by Zhao Lin. In the letter, Zhao Lin said that she wanted to meet Lin Feng. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. He didn't know why Zhao Lin wanted to meet him. Lin Feng had met Zhao Lin once before. Chapter 2470. Zhao Lin invited Lin Feng to meet her at the palace. The palaces of the cultivation world did not have as many rules as the palaces of the mortal world. Therefore, Lin Feng could enter the palace. In the palaces of the mortal world, other than the emperor, those who could enter the palace were eunuchs. The palace of the 9 continents, immortal country, was magnificent and majestic. Lin Feng came to the palace alone. As for Xiao Tian, Bibi, and the dragon rabbit stayed in the residence to play. Guya was in charge of looking after them. Outside the palace, there was already a palace maid waiting for Lin Feng. Lin Gongzi, please follow me. The palace maid who was waiting for Lin Feng bowed slightly to Lin Feng and then said aloud. This palace maid's figure and face were both extremely beautiful. Please lead the way. Lin Feng said, Young master, you're too kind. The palace maid said, and then led the way to the palace. When they arrived at the entrance of the palace, she took out a token and handed it to the guard. Then the guard let them go. Lin Feng followed the palace maid into the palace. The palace was extremely large. Therefore, after entering the palace, Lin Feng boarded the beast carriage that was already prepared. Where did Princess Zhao Lin want to meet me? Lin Feng asked. The palace maid said, In the princess's own palace, the Jade Immortal Palace. Lin Feng was shocked. He did not expect Zhao Lin to have her own palace. It seemed that Zhao Lin was an extremely valued junior. Otherwise, how could she have her own palace? Go, go, go. The carriage driver drove the beast carriage forward. About an hour later, they arrived at Zhao Lin residence. It was a huge courtyard. There were rockery, strange stones, small bridges, flowing water, and pavilions. The environment was really oppressive. In the depths of the courtyard was a huge palace. That palace should be Zhao Lin Jade Immortal Palace. Before entering the Jade Immortal Palace, Lin Feng heard the pleasant sound of a pipa. Many women liked to play the pipa. However, Zhao Lin was very interested in musical instruments like the pipa. The song she played was called Moonlit Night on the Spring River. The melody was beautiful and pleasant to the ears. It was as if it wanted to bring people into the world of the song. Lin Feng entered the Jade Fairy Palace under the guidance of a palace maid. Seeing Lin Feng enter, Zhao Lin revealed a charming smile to Lin Feng, but she didn't stop playing. Lin Feng, on the other hand, found a place to sit down and quietly enjoy the view. The palace maid did not disturb the two of them and retreated, leaving Lin Feng and Zhao Lin alone. Zhao Lin wore a veil even in the palace. Now that he was playing the pipa, Lin Feng felt as if he was hugging the pipa and covering half of his face. When the song Spring River Moonlight Night ended, Lin Feng seemed to still be immersed in that kind of beauty, unable to extricate himself for a long time, making people forget to return. What do you think of my song, young master? Zhao Lin asked. Her voice was very gentle and beautiful. Now, she had changed the way she addressed herself. She actually called herself young master in front of Lin Feng. This made Lin Feng very puzzled. Normally, women would only use such terms in front of extremely close male friends. Obviously, Lin Feng and Zhao Lin's relationship was not close. In fact, it was only the second time they had met. Although he was puzzled, Lin Feng's expression did not change. He said, "The song played by the princess is really amazing." He. Young master is too kind, Zhao Lin said with a smile. Lin Feng said, "I wonder why Fairy has called me here today." Zhao Lin said, "I heard that young master has the deathly still fruit. I wonder if I can exchange it with young master." Lin Feng finally understood why Zhao Lin had called him servant in front of him in such an intimate way. It seemed that Zhao Lin wanted to exchange for the deathly still fruit from him. That was why she wanted to get close to him first. Lin Feng did not really want to exchange the deathly still fruits because Lin Feng planned to leave them for his women. Lin Feng had many women now. If he had something good, he would naturally think of them. "I have one more, but it has just been sent to the auction house and is about to be auctioned. My apologies, but it seems that I will have to disappoint Princess this time." Lin Feng said. Zhao Lin said that Azure Ox Emperor said that young master has more than 10 deathly still fruits, and that each person can only consume one deathly still fruit at most. Young master should have many more. "A cyan ox is talking nonsense. Don't take it seriously," said Lin Feng. Zhao Lin said, "As long as young master is willing to exchange the deathly still fruit with me, I can satisfy any price. I want you to accompany me for a night." Lin Feng couldn't help but think wickedly. Zhao Lin was the #1 beauty in the 9 provinces paradise. She was even prettier than the fairy of the 9 heavens. Lin Feng was naturally interested in her. Of course, Lin Feng could only think about having Zhao Lin accompany him for a night. He did not dare to say it out loud. If he said it out loud, Zhao Lin would probably slash him with her sword. Lin Feng thought about it. He didn't lack any cultivation resources. Currently, what he needed the most were the 3 rare materials to refine the white tiger clone. Of course, he also needed the tyrant bone to raise the level of epic aura. Lin Feng asked, "Do you have the tyrant bone?" "What's that?" Zhao Lin asked curiously. "It's a very special bone. From the looks of it, you don't have it. Then, do you have the earth crystal, flame immortal rock, and spirit immortal ancient wood?" Lin Feng continued. Zhao Lin shook her head. "You should have the 3,000 great Daos, right?" Lin Feng said. Zhao Lin frowned slightly. Lin Feng mentioned the 3,000 great Daos because he wanted her to exchange them for the deathly still fruit. The 3,000 great Daos were extremely precious. They were the foundation of the Tao. The deathly still fruit was only a natural treasure. No matter how precious it was, it couldn't be compared to the 3,000 great Daos. "It seems like the princess doesn't intend to exchange them," Lin Feng said. "If that's the case, then I'll take my leave." "Wait," Zhao Lin said. "Princess, have you changed your mind?" Lin Feng looked at Zhao Lin and asked. Zhao Lin looked at Lin Feng in annoyance and said, "If I didn't need the deathly still fruit urgently, I wouldn't have used the 3,000 great Daos to exchange with you. I can use one of the 3,000 great Daos to exchange for the deathly still fruit, but you can't teach it to anyone else." There was an unwritten rule in the world of cultivators. Divine abilities obtained through exchanges were not allowed to be taught to others. Every world had its own rules, and cultivators had to abide by these rules. Lin Feng said, "Don't worry, I know the rules." Swoosh! With a flash of light, a jade tube appeared in Zhao Lin's hand. She handed the jade tube to Lin Feng. Lin Feng used his divine sense to check it, and a look of disbelief appeared on his face. Chapter 2471. Zhao Lin didn't want to exchange the death silence fruit with Lin Feng. She had already said it, and Lin Feng could sense her inner thoughts. However, Zhao Lin needed the death silence fruit, so she had no choice but to trade with Lin Feng. With Zhao Lin's identity and status, she should have mastered many of the 3,000 great Daos. Naturally, he could choose some unpopular great Dao, or the 3,000 great Dao that he could not use normally to impart to him. However, what Zhao Lin imparted to him was the great immunity art. Lin Feng was extremely shocked, and he couldn't believe it. The great immunity art was an extremely heaven-defying divine ability. It was ranked 53rd among the 3,000 great Daos. Back then, Lin Feng's greatest enemy in the Tianwu continent, the successor of the heavenly god palace, Di Xingtian, had cultivated the great immunity art. It was one of the top divine arts recorded in the great immunity art. However, Lin Feng hadn't been able to fight Di Xingtian in the final battle. Ever since the sea route to the 9 prefectures' great world was opened, the heavenly god palace had disappeared. It was unknown if they had come to the 9 prefectures, apart from Di Xingtian. The first foreign god he had met in the ancient city also knew about the great immunity art. Perhaps they had all cultivated the great immunity art before. The great immunity art was a divine ability that could make anyone go crazy. The great immunity art recorded in the great immunity art was extremely useful to cultivators. Once the great immunity art was activated, it could nullify all attacks condensed from the opponent's magic power. For example, it could nullify all kinds of divine abilities, bloodline abilities, and even auras. This was because the activation of these attacks required the use of magic power in order to release their power. Therefore, one could imagine how precious this divine ability was. Zhao Lin asked, "Do you like this divine ability?" "Of course, I like it." Lin Feng suppressed the excitement in his heart. He looked at Zhao Lin in confusion and asked, "Why are you imparting this divine ability to me? If I said that it's because I admire you, would you believe me?" Zhao Lin said, "Admire me?" Lin Feng looked at Zhao Lin in astonishment. He wouldn't believe this reason even if he was beaten to death. Although Lin Feng thought that he was handsome and dashing, he was still a man of his word. However, he had only met Zhao Lin twice. For a woman like Zhao Lin to have feelings of admiration for a man she had only met twice, wasn't this a joke? In any case, Lin Feng wouldn't believe such a thing. "What? You don't believe me?" Zhao Lin asked. Lin Feng looked at Zhao Lin. Zhao Lin also looked at Lin Feng. Zhao Lin's eyes were very beautiful. Her skin was fair, her figure was graceful, and her temperament was outstanding. However, her face was covered by a veil, so no one could see her true appearance. Lin Feng said with a smile, "Sometimes being too charming is a mistake. I'm really too outstanding. Everyone loves me and flowers bloom when they see me. Therefore, I don't doubt the princess's words at all. My charm has always been this great." Zhao Lin said, "Young master is really humorous. If you don't mind, I'm willing to become your confidant." Zhao Lin's actions shocked Lin Feng more and more. She was actually willing to directly say that she wanted to become his confidant. This was equivalent to a goddess-like woman taking the initiative to tell a man she had only met twice that she had already fallen in love with him. She wanted to be good to him, so he should accept her love. Anyone who saw this would find it inconceivable and unbelievable. Lin Feng couldn't help but slander her in his heart. He had no idea what Zhao Lin was up to. However, regardless of whether Zhao Lin was sincere or had other motives, Lin Feng was skilled and daring. He wasn't worried that Zhao Lin would scheme against him. Being able to have a confidant like the princess is really a happy thing. Lin Feng's mouth revealed a smile. He reached out to hug Zhao Lin-er's small waist. He wanted to see what kind of reaction this goddess in the eyes of countless people would have. He, now is not the time, Zhao Lin-er said with a smile. Then, she nimbly dodged and avoided Lin Feng's embrace. She then laughed. Lin Feng said, "This one was rude. I hope the princess doesn't blame me." Zhao Lin-er smiled and said, "How would I dare to blame the prince? In the future, when we are more familiar with each other and our relationship is deeper, Lin-er will not object to the prince's actions. I will definitely be obedient to the prince." Zhao Lin-er's words were too straightforward. If it was another man, he would probably be so excited that he didn't know his surname. Lin Feng only smiled indifferently. He said, "To be able to receive the princess's admiration is really an honor. I see that it's already late, and I don't want to disturb you anymore. I'll take my leave for now. I'll send the prince off." Zhao Lin-er said. Lin Feng smiled and said, "Thank you for your trouble, princess." After leaving the palace, Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. Zhao Lin-er's change in attitude was extremely strange. Lin Feng had already felt that Zhao Lin-er was not a simple woman. Now, her series of inconceivable actions caused Lin Feng to feel even more puzzled. Has she really taken a liking to me? Lin Feng couldn't help but touch his face. His face was indeed handsome. Of course, the most important thing was that he was young and promising. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel proud of himself. Of course, this was also a bit of self-praise. After returning to their residence, Guya looked at Lin Feng with a faint smile and said, "Look at how happy you are. Did something happen between you and Zhao Lin-er?" Lin Feng smiled and said, "What? Are you jealous?" "Tui, why would I be jealous of you?" Guya spat at Lin Feng. "Don't explain. Explaining is just trying to cover it up." Lin Feng grinned and reached out to hug Guya's waist. Guya's magic power was sealed, so she couldn't escape from Lin Feng's embrace. "Don't go too far." Guya gnashed her teeth and looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled and said, "It's already late autumn, and I saw that you were wearing thin clothes. I was worried that you would catch a cold, so I used my embrace to warm you up. Don't misunderstand me." When she heard Lin Feng's words, Guya immediately felt the urge to smash Lin Feng into a pulp with a punch. This guy was taking advantage of her, yet he could still speak so confidently. How could he be so shameless? Lin Feng said, "You seem to have a grudge with Zhao Lin-er. What do you think of Zhao Lin-er?" Guya said, "She's a very scheming woman.